What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Kurama. Naruto yelled out as the Kyuubi was being forcefully ripped out of the blonde's body. Naruto recoiled backwards and began to fall from a height of 100 meters, feeling the effects of losing his Biju. Unfortunately for Naruto, there wasn't much he can do at this moment. His body was getting weaker by the second his mind was beginning to shut down. Unlike his mother who was a full-blooded Uzumaki and could survive the extraction of Kurama, for a little while at least. Naruto was only half and was already feeling the effects of death claiming him. Madara stared on impassively at Naruto's body as it fell from a great height. All his plans should now proceed smoothly with that problem child out of the way. If he would have been the same age as Naruto, Madara would have been defeated for sure, but he was a seasoned veteran and someone Naruto would have no chance of defeating him. A disturbing grin spread across Madara's face, now that all the Bijus and the chakra construct of the Kyuubi were in his chains. He then turned his attention to Gaara who is attempting to save Shukaku. Which Madara easily knocked them away with his Susanoo, which threw its ethereal spirit at the young cage. Everything was going smoothly from Madara until he was attacked from behind. Bringing up his Susanoo ribcage blocking the attacker, who was none other than the man who claimed his brother's life. Tobirama Senju, how Madara hated this man with every fiber of his being. Quickly conjuring up his limbo shadow and knocking Tobirama away like a rag doll. Madara was grinning like a madman and just knocked Gaara down and began the process of absorbing the Biju one by one into the Gedo Mazo. Naruto hit the ground hard. The shock from having Kurama ripped out of him made it nearly impossible for them to move. He laid there as he saw Kurama sucked into the Gedo Mazo. He gritted his teeth as he saw Madara laughing. His vision was going dark. He felt a slight pull in his mind which was exactly like what Kurama used to do. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto's eyes snapped open and looking around he found himself waking up in his mindscape, in ankle-deep water. Sitting up quickly Naruto looked back and forth. Kurama. Anyone? Naruto called out but he was greeted by the emptiness of his mind. Greetings young Uzumaki, or should I say Ashura's reincarnation, the child the prophecy. A strange distorted voice called out. It sounded like a pair of demonic beings, one male and one female, and it sounded like they were talking in front of a fan. Naruto turned around as he saw a mass of white misty flame or chakra. It had no shape whatsoever in the silhouette of the Shinju could be seen as a reflection in the water. Naruto was confused as he stared at the being. What the hell are you Datbeo? Naruto asked with confusion clearly written on his face. I am here to offer you my help in defeating Madara and stopping the resurrection of Kagaya Otsutsuki, the one who robbed me of my power nearly 1,000 years ago. The shapeless mass spoke. How am I supposed to help me beat Madara? He has Kurama and the other Biju. What could you possibly offer me that I could defeat him? And who the hell is Kagaya Otsutsuki Datbeo? Naruto snapped at the shapeless mass that didn't even stutter at his outburst. I guess I might as well introduce myself. I am the Shinju or God Tree, whichever you prefer. You're the Shinju. How are you inside me now? I thought you were supposed to be out there, that giant tree. The mass gave a sigh. That is correct, that was my original body, for Kagaya stole my power and managed to steal nearly half of my power. I'm not going to bore you with the details. All you need to know is Kagaya is extremely dangerous. It took both of her sons to defeat her and seal her away in the celestial body known as the moon. The Shinju explained, not really wanting to talk about the one that stole its power long ago. Wait, who is this Kagaya chick's sons? Naruto asked, confused again. They were Hagoromo Otsutsuki the Rikudo Sennin, and Hamura Otsutsuki. Their past is not important, although Hagoromo had two sons. One was named Indra Otsutsuki, while the other one was Ashura Otsutsuki. Due to him having such immensely powerful chakra, they had been reincarnated throughout the years, trying to find an answer to world peace. The essence of the God Tree explained. Naruto's eye twitched. Duh, why can't you talk normally? The mass simply snorted at Naruto's response. You are the reincarnation of Ashura, while your friend Sasuke's the reincarnation of Indra. Naruto got a weirded out look on his face. What Datbeo? You tell me I have a ghost living inside me? In a matter of speaking, yes you do. Well, more or less his chakra has become one with yours. It's the reason why you suck at everything in life. You're late bloomer just like him. You have a hard time learning anything, and you required help of others to accomplish your goals. The Shinju added, so why you really here? The essence of the god tree nearly fell over. You really are a baka? The mask spoke in a deadpan manner. Naruto's eye twitched at the hands as he began to shake his face comically. Oi, what was that? I have no idea what you're talking about. The mask said innocently, as Naruto threw his arms up in frustration. I came here to offer you power. The remainder of my power, since I can feel Kaguya's resurrection is near. Naruto tilted his head to the side. I get that his Kaguya lady is powerful, but she can't be that powerful, can she? The Shinju let out a humorless chuckle. You poor simple-minded boy, the Juubi you fought earlier was a weakling compared to the one Madara just resurrected, and it's still not at full power. It still lacks the other half of Kurama, which there's no doubt my mind Madara will collect at his leisure. A complete Juubi is on a completely different level than the one you fought earlier. Kaguya is nearly 2 times stronger than that, and that is with almost half of my power. I'm going to give you the remaining amount of my power. I guess you can figure this is about 54 to 55% of my full power. Granted, 10% of it will be stored away, in the form of a gift for someone you hold dear. The mask explained. Naruto's eyes widened in fear. You have to be kidding me, there is no way she's that powerful, Datbayo. The Shinju simply shook its head. She is. You're running out of time, I can only stabilize your life force for so long. The only sure way you will survive is if you accept my power, or if your father can transfer the other half of Kurama into you. Naruto had a grim look on his face before looking at the mask one more time. What will happen if I accept this power? Naruto asked in a serious tone as the essence of the god tree seemed to give a small smirk. That's if it had a face. For one, you would no longer be human. You have small portions of the Biju inside you, as well as a good portion of the chakra you stole from Kurama. In other words, you would become a Biju yourself, a Juubi, not like the one you seen before, most likely a Juubi no Kitsune, 10-tailed fox. Normally Naruto would have started yelling and screaming about not wanting to give up his humanity, but with the stakes this high he was left were many options. I accept. You also said to him about a gift for someone who's dear to me? The mask nodded. That is correct. When you deem someone worthy of the power of the Tenseigan, you'll be able to implant it inside of them. And no, do not give it to that pink-haired howler monkey you call a teammate. Shinju explained as Naruto pouted before his eyes widened. What's the Tensei? Ek. Naruto yelped in surprise as the Shinju's mask began to expand, completely covering his mindscape and causing it to corrode. As this was happening, Naruto felt his consciousness fading from his mindscape. Everything went black as he was forced back out into the real world. The real world. Almost instantly, Naruto's eyes snapped open as he sat up. Naruto's body was aching, as he noticed his hand was turning translucent, as was the rest of his body. What? He thought in bewilderment and fear. And now his translucent body began to flicker, as his body was converted into your chakra. It wasn't blue but pure white chakra. His physical form was degrading fast, as it began to expand, losing its humanoid shape, forming a large dome similar to a Bijudama when it explodes. The dome only lasted mere moments as it dissipated into a thick, potent white mist that resembled flames of unnatural nature. Naruto's body was gone, completely erased from existence, but his consciousness still existed within this mist. It seemed like an eternity, but the mist began to collect and gather in the center. It had taken an entire 60 seconds for the mist collect, as it began to compact and condense itself down. The misty chakra began to take shape. It took the shape of a humanoid being. It didn't take long for it to gain distinguishing features, or to resemble an actual human, as what stood in the center was a handsome man with shoulder-length spiky snow-white hair and pale skin, and bright cerulean blue eyes. He had 3 whisker marks on each cheek and stood 6 feet tall. He also had 10 foxtails cloaked in the white fur, with a pair of matching ears. The man's attire consisted of a full-bodied black garment with purple pants and boots, over which he wore a flowing white robe with 6 black Magatama markings across his chest and the familiar pattern of a black Rinnegan, and 9 black Magatama markings in rows of 3 on his back. The man stood examining himself. Wow, the Shinju wasn't lying when I would become a Biju. But I still feel human too? Naruto thought to himself as he felt much stronger than before, although thinking his body was completely made of chakra now. Everything still seemed to work. He would have to check out and see if Naruto Jr. still worked. Hopefully it would. Naruto frowned. It felt like he was using Sennin mode, only much stronger. It seems that gained the knowledge of the Shinju itself too. So, this is Rikudo Senjutsu, 6 Paths Sage Technique. The same power Obito used after becoming the Jinchuriki of the Juubi. I can see why this power is so overwhelming, and I can see chakra too. Naruto thought to himself, going over all the stuff he gained from the essence of the God Tree. So, it gave me Rikudo Senjutsu, and the Rinne Sharingan, and the Tenseigan gift to boot. I better go stop Madara now before he attempts to activate Mugen Tsukuyomi, Infinite Moon Reader. Naruto thought aloud before taking to the air, and flying in the direction of the largest chakra. With Madara, a white-haired man with pale skin, wearing full-bodied black garment with black pants, gloves, and boots, over which he wore a flowing white robe with 6 black Magatama markings across his chest and the familiar pattern of a black Rinnegan and 9 black Magatama markings in rows of 3 on his back. He had gray horn-like protrusions grew out of his left temple and overlapped his forehead akin to a protector with an upward curve on the right temple. This man was Madara. He had completely overpowered everyone, then reclaims his other Rinnegan from Obito, and ripped the yin portion of Kurama out of Minato. Thankfully Minato was an Edo Tensei, so he easily survived the extraction, but he knew for a fact he coaches Madara. Naruto floated over the battlefield observing the scene before him, and the first thing he noticed was the dead corpse of Obito laying in the corner. Black Zetsu was nowhere to be seen. And Madara had both of his original Rinnegan eyes back in his possession. He then noticed Guy jump forward before crossing his arms in front of him. Hachiman, Kiyomon Kai, 8 inner gates, gate of shock open, Guy roared. Madara raised a single arm in front of his face to block the pressure and dust being sent his way. Blue vapors. 1 gate before the gate of death. He insults me by not bring out the red vapors. Madara speaks in a disappointed tone. Guy rushes forward sending a powerful punch towards Madara, who dodges and easily. Guy unleashes a theory of powerful punches and kicks, as Madara continues to dodge them effortlessly. Guy crouches down in front of Madara making a weird hand seal. Take this, Hiradora, afternoon tiger. Guy howls as he unleashes a giant tiger comprised of nothing but compressed air. The attack creates a large explosion which leaves Guy embedded in the ground and Madara being pushed backwards. Madara comes to a full stop before launching one of his Gudadama, Truth Seeker balls, at Guy. Oh, no you don't. Minato yelled out as he throws one of his Hiraishin Kunai, Flying Thunder God Kunai, to intercept Madara's black orb. Rock Lee sees his teacher before either the black orb or Minato's kunai could reach Guy. Madara seemed to scowl at this, while Naruto simply smirked. Way to go, bushy brow. Naruto thought to himself, as he slowly descended to the ground. Minato's eyes widened when he saw Naruto walking towards him and his group. Yo, Tu-san, Naruto said as he noticed a severely fatigued Kakashi, and how beaten up his followers. Naruto frowned as he gently placed his hand on Kakashi's shoulder, resealing his chakra reserves. I need you guys to leave, Naruto ordered as his father's eyes widened. Naruto, we can't just leave you to face him alone. Minato protested while Naruto shook his head. No, I'm the only one who can face him, and if you haven't noticed the tails behind me, Naruto said while gesturing towards his 10 tails that were lazily swaying back and forth. This caught Minato by surprise as well as Kakashi. You're serious, aren't you? Kakashi asked as Naruto nodded. Yes, things happened to me. I know you won't believe me, but this is for the best. I can't afford to have you guys getting in the way, possibly get her own worst being used as hostages. I need to go all out on him if I want to have a chance of winning. And I can't do that with bystanders around, Naruto said as he began to advance towards Madara, who was glaring at Naruto. Naruto changed quite a bit. Perhaps removing the Kyuubi made you stronger? Madara said in a calm but arrogant tone. Minato glanced towards Kakashi and Guy and Lee. Come on everyone, we need to leave, we'll only get in the way if we stayed here, Minato said as him and Kakashi began to leave. Wait, what about Naruto-kun? Lee asked, worried about his eternal rival. Guy shook his head as tears welling up in Lee's eyes. Naruto finally felt their chakra signatures leaving the area, as Madara was studying in carefully. So, you've acquired the power of the Rinne and Rikudo Senjutsu as well. Although your change is a little more drastic than mine. This should prove to be fun. Let's see who's more powerful, me or you. Madara chuckled. Naruto frowned him, and Madara was nearly equal in power, and he knew for a fact a long drag-out fight would not end in his favor. Madara was far more experienced than fighting, and he was. Plus, Madara had more experience using his dojutsu than Naruto did, but Naruto had more experience in senjutsu. Naruto made a fist as he punched the ground, causing a large cloud of dust to cloak the area. Madara narrowed his eyes, unable to see through the dust, although Madara heard a familiar high-pitched shrill noise. Turning to the side, he saw familiar chakra shuriken approaching him at a frightening speed. However, Madara simply raised his hand, preparing to absorb the technique, only for it to disappear in a cloud of smoke, revealing Naruto in all his glory. Madara's eyes widened in surprise, before Naruto cold-cocked him directly in the face. The punch was strong enough to send Madara sailing across the ground, before he could compose himself, and landed on the ground gracefully. Madara looked up as he saw Naruto running directly at him with the Juubi and Rikudo Senjutsu enhanced Rasengan. Madara narrowed his eyes as he manifested his dark blue Susanoo ribs, which were shattered the moment the Rasengan made impact. Naruto then noticed Madara had a grin on his face. It wasn't happy, it was a bloodthirsty grin. Ha 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 ha. Oh yes, you're far stronger now. You're more powerful than Hashirama. Yes, continued dancing Naruto Uzumaki. Now we shall dance until one of us is dead. Madara spoke in an altered cheerful tone. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard this. He was completely caught off guard. He wasn't expecting Madara to say something like that. Unfortunately, due to his shock, left him wide open for Madara to kick him in the side of the head, sending him tumbling across the landscape. Naruto, quickly catching himself, looked up in time to see Madara rushing towards him with a psychotic look on his face. Naruto then disappeared in a white flash, before appearing directly in front of Madara with another Rasengan. Anyone else wouldn't have been able to see the blonde's insane speed or movement, but Madara wasn't normal by any stretch of the imagination. He had the Rinnegan in the highest echelon of the Sharingan. Madara dodges the oncoming spiraling sphere of death and immediately retaliated with a lightning-fast punch that made Naruto go flying back. However, Naruto dispersed in a cloud of smoke after taking the solid hit, revealing that it was a clone. When does he make a clone? I couldn't notice it with my Rinnegan. Madara thought to himself. Although he had experience and technique under his belt, he would now have to act cautiously. However, the strongest Uchiha received no respite. A fully formed Rasen Shuriken was approaching from behind at frightening pace. Madara felt a small bit of disappointment. Naruto was still acting quite predictable, so his victory wouldn't be too difficult. And here he thought he may have found a challenge that had surpassed Hashirama. Madara simply turned around and moving his hand towards the deadly chakra shuriken. And once more, the deadly attack suddenly dispersed into smoke, revealing a smirking clone with another Rasen Shuriken at the ready. Madara's eye widened in surprise before a smirk appeared on his face. Perhaps he was wrong about Naruto. But he can praise the blonde later once he was dead, moving his hand in a position that Naruto knew too well. Shinra Tensai. The clone flew backwards, dispelling in a cloud of smoke. Madara, still with a smirk on his face, was somewhat proud of Naruto. If he would have acted a little bit slower, then attack may have hit him. Especially at that speed, that ridiculous speed that was even faster than the Raikage with his lightning armor activated. Although if the attack would have hit, it was a 50-50 shot if the legendary Uchiha would have survived. However, Madara had no time to simply sit around and think. Another clone suddenly appeared behind Madara. There was another Rasen Shuriken in his hands. Madara could see the amount of chakra placed into the ability and how deadly the technique truly was with his Rinnegan. For Kami's sake, even without his eyes, he could feel the ridiculous amount of chakra placed into the ability. There was no way he would let himself be hit by that technique, especially when it was enhanced by Rikudo no Chakura, 6 Paths Chakra, and Senjutsu. Naruto grinned. Your 5 seconds are up yet, so take this and go back to hell where you belong. Naruto yelled out as he threw the gigantic spiraling shuriken sphere. That should have finished, Naruto declared internally, only for his eyes to widen in disbelief. This time Madara succeeded in absorbing the technique. Naruto felt like slapping himself. That was a dumb move on his part. God damn it, I forgot the Rinnegan's limitless chakra absorption potential. Naruto mentally complained since he had similar but stronger eyes than Madara's. What happened, Naruto? You really had me going for quite a while. You stopped the clones and attempted to attack me with an actual chakra technique. How disappointing. I thought you knew that these eyes can absorb chakra, to be more specific, an infinite amount of chakra to be exact. Especially since you have the Rinne, which is more powerful than my eyes. Madara spoke in a disappointed tone. Naruto gritted his teeth. He knew Madara was going to be tough, but damn it, with 2 Rinnegan and a complete Juubi, the man was overpowered as shit. Naruto couldn't help but smirk a little bit. Well, I guess you could say I was only testing the water since I absolutely no experience with dojutsu. But I have plenty of experience with senjutsu and how it works, and I even figure out how to call these out. Naruto said before closing his eyes and concentrating as 10 fist-sized black spheres manifested in a halo fashion behind him, as a dual-headed shakuho formed in his hand. One end has a ringed hoop, while the other end possesses a crescent-shaped curve, representing the sun and moon respectively. Now let's go for a round, shall we? Naruto announced before crouching down into a fighting stance as Madara simply gave a bloodthirsty grin. The two rushed at each other with the intent to kill, slamming your fist together causing a rather large shockwave. Quickly jumping back in, both charged at each other once more, instantly going into a taijutsu battle. Madara delivered a powerful kick which Naruto blocked with his forearm. Madara then performed a pound thrust which Naruto blocked. Naruto threw a quick jab. Madara effortlessly dodged. They clashed with their forearms again. Madara threw a jab which Naruto barely blocked, and in Naruto's distracted state Madara, using one of Naruto's hands, performed the horse hand seal. Naruto realized this, throwing a sloppy chop with Madara ducked and quickly delivered a palm thrust to the whitenet's cheek. Madara then performed the tiger hand seal with Naruto's extended hand. Madara delivered 2 powerful kicks to Naruto's face before jumping into the air. Madara unleashed a barrage of small fireballs which Naruto dodged. Madara charged forward, unleashing a broader barrage of punches and kicks upon Naruto. Madara broke Naruto's guard with a lazy kick. Naruto blocked another of Madara's punches and narrowly dodged a brutal kick. Naruto spun around, delivering a chop which Madara ducked under and quickly delivered a powerful right hook to Naruto's face. Madara effortlessly dodged Naruto's sloppy punch and threw him back, which Madara then delivered a kick, sending Naruto sailing across the ground. Naruto quickly caught himself in midair before focusing his sight on Madara. Applying more chakra into right eye, he appeared directly behind Madara, surprising him. Madara quickly turned around only to get punched in the face by Naruto, because of its few steps back, rubbing the blood from his nose. That certainly is interesting. Suppress the power of his eyes. Teleportation? No, it's almost as if he simply appeared there. Like, shift his position? Madara thought to himself before smirking. Naruto felt his cerulean blue Rinne Sharingan right eye pulse with power. Takami Musubi, High Creator, the ability to manipulate space with my right eye. Naruto thought to himself, so just like the Sharingan and Rinnegan, the Rinne Sharingan's abilities varies from person to person. Naruto glanced at Madara channeling chakra into his left eye. Madara was on edge as he saw Naruto channel his chakra to his left eye. Something's coming, but what? Madara thought, completely unaware of what was coming his way. Just as Naruto was getting ready to attack when he felt a familiar chakra signature closing in fast. Naruto looked up as he saw descending towards the ground, as he dispelled his Hawk's summoning. Madara narrowed his single eye. This could prove to be a problem? Madara thought to himself. Sasuke, not that I'm not happy to see you, but what are you doing here? Naruto asked, knowing Sasuke wouldn't be much of a help to him, mainly due to the fact he didn't have Rikudo no Chakra, 6 Paths Chakra, or Rinnegan, or Rikudo Senjutsu, the only things that could detect Madara's limbo shadows. Dobi, I'm coming here to remove what is wrong with this world. The two of you, both you and Madara, need to be erased, along with those filthy beasts. Sasuke said as his Sharingan spun into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto was slightly taken back, although he didn't show it. Madara, on the other hand, simply narrowed his eyes. I've given you more than enough time to come up with decision whether to join me. It seems I was mistaken about you. I shall rectify my decision by destroying the both of you," Madara said with a smirk. Sasuke's body was cloaked in a sickly purple aura summoning forth his humanoid Susanoo complete with legs. Madara seemed unimpressed while Naruto had a sad look in his eyes. "Please forgive me, Itachi, but I have no other choice at this point. He's too much of a threat and he's blinded by his hatred, and if I let him live this whole thing is going to start all over again," Naruto thought to himself, knowing that he would have to take the life of his best friend. Sasuke sent a series of Susanoo arrows at both Naruto and Madara. Naruto took to the air while Madara raised his hand. "Shinra Tensei, heavenly subjugation of the omnipresent god," Madara declared as he shattered and repelled the Susanoo arrows. Madara then gave a sickly sweet smile. "Allow me to show you how to properly use the Susanoo, Sasuke," Madara said as a geyser of dark blue energy erupted from Madara's body, taking the shape of 100-meter tail ethereal samurai warrior, with the second pair of arms holstered to the back of its shoulders. Sasuke's eyes widened in pure shock and in fear at the monster before him, and off to the side Naruto stared up at the chakra giant before him. Quickly clapping his hands together, Naruto began to focus. "Remember what Byoji-chan told you, matching your Biju and explode," Naruto thought as he focused on the image of a Juubi white Kurama. Naruto's 10 snow-white tails began furiously thrashing around, wisps of ghostly white chakra escaping from Naruto's body. Naruto's body was engulfed in a bright light, as his masked and she began to expand. This caught both Sasuke and Madara's attention. What took Naruto's place was a 120-meter tail kitsune standing on its hind feet. With a humanoid upper body complete with hands and opposable thumbs. It had been long tails each 380 meters in length. It pretty much looked like a replica of Kurama, only a bit bigger, and had an extra tail and white fur, and had a pair of cerulean blue Rinne Sharingan in both eyes. The beast looked at its hands, almost as if it was examining them. "Wow, my power multiplied by 6 times at least and feels exactly like when I summoned Kurama's avatar. Only this is an actual physical form, and I'm pretty sure I can use any ability Kurama could," Naruto thought to himself before turning his sights on the 2 Uchiha before him. Sasuke glared at Naruto before channeling his chakra to his left eye. "Amaterasu," Sasuke declared as black flames cloaked Naruto's body, and almost instantly extended both of his arms and released an extremely powerful pulse of chakra, knocking the black flames off him. Stunned by this, Sasuke was unable to dodge the tail strike aimed at his Susanoo, which not only pierced but broke in half Sasuke's Susanoo. Naruto narrowly dodged a large powerful ethereal blue blade, which the shock wave from the katana itself was so strong it not only bisected all the mountains in the area but also cut the god tree in half. Naruto took a defensive posture, bringing several of his tails in front of him, preparing to use them as shields. Naruto noticed a large shadow looming above them. The god tree was falling towards them. "Absorb the tree reincarnation of Ashura. Do it and you will prevent Kagaya from being resurrected." The Shinju's distorted voice echoed throughout his mind. Naruto's eyes widened as he raised both his hands, catching the tree before it hit the ground. His tremendous weight caused the ground crack underneath Naruto. Gritting his teeth, straining to keep the tree up, Naruto's Rinne Sharingan unconsciously postal power. Rikudo Juubi Kyuin, 6 paths 10 tails coffin seal, Naruto thought as he began to absorb the tree into his body. Glancing out of the corner of his eyes, Naruto noticed Madara's Susanoo running towards him, with its blade ready to cut them in half. Naruto swiped his tail in the direction of Madara, not only causing the Susanoo to be knocked back but also obliterating the landscape with a shock wave generated from a single tail swipe. "Gah!" Madara growled as his Susanoo steadied itself, before running towards Naruto again with finished absorbing the tree. Tail and sword clash, shaking the landscape. The 2 behemoths punched at each other. As their fists met, they caused tidal waves to rise. Naruto blocked the Susanoo, playing with his wrist. Every time they clashed, shockwaves and dust erupted into the air like a geyser. The perfect Susanoo sent Naruto flying backwards into one of the many bisected mountains. Naruto quickly jumped into the air, avoiding a large fireball which the perfect Susanoo continuously released. The Juubi dive bombed the perfect Susanoo, causing an explosion of dust and debris, Naruto using his tail to block Madara's Susanoo sword strike. The two continued to trade blows as it caused more geysers of water to erupt, as the sky above them became dark as lightning began dancing through the clouds. Madara's perfect Susanoo delivered a double sword strike which Naruto blocked it with his tails, but the force from the strike traveled across the ground and caused several bisected mountains to crumble. "What's the matter?" Madara announced in an arrogant tone. Naruto thrusted his tails upwards, sending Madara's perfect Susanoo into the air. Naruto quickly taking advantage of Sasuke's dazed state, using Kurama's tails to latch onto the Susanoo's leg before slamming it into the ground. Naruto took this opportunity to stand on top of the perfect Susanoo before aiming a Bijudama at Madara point blank. Out of nowhere, lightning began gathering in the sky before a large lightning-like dragon beast screaming down from the sky, gripping Naruto by the back of his neck. Madara's eyes widened before glancing out of the corner of his eye and noticing Sasuke's humanoid Susanoo standing with lightning arcing around its hand. Within a matter of seconds, Kirin exploded, consuming both Madara and Naruto in a pillar of lightning. Sasuke stood off to the side, smirking at his handiwork, although after the smoke cleared his eyes widened. Madara's Susanoo didn't have a scratch on it, and Naruto was completely unharmed, even his fur was clean. "Sasuke, this is a battle for the grown-ups. Children are not allowed, so be gone," Madara declared as he unleashed a barrage of Yasaka Magatama, 8 slopes curved jewel, at Sasuke, who jumped out of the way. "Don't talk down to me like I'm a mere child. Aside from the two of you, I'm the strongest person here." Madara snorted at Sasuke's outburst. "You really think you're the strongest here? You wouldn't last 5 seconds against Hashirama, Tobirama, or Hiruzen. Nor would you stand a chance against the man who opened 7 out of 8 inner gates," Madara said with a chuckle. "He's right, Sasuke, you have no place in this battle. Is between me and Madara. You're nothing more than a hindrance in this battle," Naruto said coldly as Sasuke gritted his teeth before firing an Amaterasu cloaked arrow at Naruto. Naruto lazily waving his hand, releasing a shockwave which destroyed the Amaterasu arrow instantly. "You know, perhaps I should show you the difference between our power, Sasuke." Naruto gave a sinister grin before reaching out with his arms and hooked his claws into the air. He'd really wanted to see if he could possibly use this, since he became the Nickname Juubi, second 10 tails, and this was the perfect excuse to utilize it. Madara narrowed his eyes when he saw his opponent's chakra permeate everything around him and somehow pull on the world in such a way that he could almost see it twisting. The skies darkened, the earth shook and the wind started howling, lightning began dancing in the sky. Sasuke's eyes widened as he felt the amount of power and gathering in the sky. Tenpenchi, natural disaster befalling heaven and earth. Everything seemed to come to a sudden climax as natural lightning began striking everything. Massive tornadoes formed and began to rip apart all they touched, and earthquakes ruptured the earth. Water began to flood the very battleground of the Fourth Great Ninja War. Naruto stopped, basically ripping the world a new one just before the danger's aura surrounding Naruto exploded, taking the form of a giant mushroom cloud with lightning sparking in and out of it. Everywhere around the battlefield, people looked on in pure fear and horror, as they just witnessed a much more powerful Tenpenchi than before. Even Tobi, aka Guru, Swirly, and his Mokuton, Suhyaku no Te, would release. Several hundred hands were obliterated in the process. The only thing that remained intact was Madara's perfect Susanoo, which did sustain some damage. Sasuke's Susanoo was reduced to nothing but a rib cage, and Sasuke was severely injured. "Now that's power," Madara muttered as he stared at the massive kitsune before him before grinning. Cupping the hands of his Susanoo, Yasaka no Magatama, 8 slopes curved jewel, yelled as he unleashed several dozen blue Yasaka Magatama at Naruto. Naruto opened his jaws as he released a powerful roar that completely destroyed Madara's Yasaka Magatama. Madara then drew his 2 katanas, which he then threw one Naruto. "Take it, I want to test your swordsmanship," Madara said as Naruto took the enormous ethereal katana, and without warning, the 2 behemoths clashed with each other, slamming their ethereal katanas together, sending sparks and shockwaves across the battlefield. Madara set a horizontal strike which Naruto jumped over it. Unfortunately, it's the mountains in the background. Naruto came down with a powerful vertical strike which Madara easily blocked. Using one of his secondary arms, Madara knocked Naruto back. Naruto sent one of his tails wrapping around the Susanoo's leg, causing it to hit the ground. Naruto jumped as he came down with this sword and that Madara Susanoo. The Susanoo quickly rolled out the way as the ethereal katana sliced deep into the ground, causing an earthquake. Naruto quickly ripped the blade out of the ground, causing the very ground beneath him to split. The two behemoths then clashed again. Sasuke watched Madara and Naruto continuously clash one another as he clenched his fist tightly, gritting his teeth in pure anger and jealousy. Was this his limitation? Was always meant to be weak? Every time he reached a new level of power, Naruto surpassed him. First when they were younger and Naruto learned Kuchiyose no Jutsu, summoning technique, and Rasengan. Then, later on, it was Senjutsu and finally full mastery of the Kyuubi, and now Naruto was a Juubi. He literally turned into a Biju. Sasuke could feel his insides boiling as he summoned forth his Susanoo in its armored stage. Why am I always so weak? I refuse to be left behind again. Sasuke mentally screamed in frustration, as his Susanoo began to morph and change. His Susanoo took its complete body form. Sasuke's Susanoo now had a helmet that features a long Tengu nose, 2 spikes over each eye, a slit stretching across its mouth, 3 gaps on each of its cheeks and 1 additional gap on its chin. This caught Madara and Naruto's attention as they saw Sasuke's perfect Susanoo, which was smaller than Madara's, but it had a pair of wings. Sasuke instantly charged in with rage, fueling his desire to win. Naruto gripped the katana and Madara gave to him. The 3 previous clash as they shook the entire battlefield, making it impossible for all of the other battles to continue. Naruto quickly jumped back as he opened up his massive jaws, as he gathered both positive red chakra and negative blue chakra, forming a massive purple sphere of chaotic chakra. But Naruto didn't stop there. His Bijudama continued increases in size before it was several times larger than himself. Madara's eyes widened before he gritted his teeth. Sasuke, on the other hand, jumped into the air to avoid this cataclysmic orb of chaotic chakra. Without warning, Naruto launched a massive Bijudama at Madara's Susanoo, which has hit its mark and continued going into the distance. The explosion caused by this Bijudama, measuring 300 meters in diameter, reached all the way up to the stratosphere. It was a good thing Naruto launched into the sea. Because if it hit anything on my end, the entire elemental nations would often completely obliterated. Naruto stared off as the dust cleared, revealing the damage the sphere had caused traveling across the ground. Naruto dodged a purple katana before he quickly ground and shock slammed Sasuke's perfect Susanoo. Applying pressure to the neck of the Susanoo, Naruto shattered the chakra giant into a shower of glitter. Naruto quickly reverted to his human form before giving an exhausted sigh, using his Biju form not only for an extended amount of time but also for his first time left him exhausted. Out of nowhere, Naruto dodged a punch, which Naruto was surprised to see Madara complete fine. That was an awful lot of chakra used in that Bijudama. You could have killed me with it. Madara said with a smirk. You dance very well, Naruto. You are indeed my most powerful opponents. You should take pride in that accomplishment because not many people have. Naruto gritted his teeth as Sasuke came down with a vertical strike, Naruto quickly grabbing Sasuke by the neck, causing him to drop his sword. You're the strongest opponent I fought as well, Madara. But this is where it ends for all of us. The 3 of us are simply too powerful for this world. I know you agree with me. Naruto said as Madara hesitantly nodded as Sasuke continued clawing at Naruto's wrist, trying to pry himself free. Naruto sent a massive amount of chakra to his right eye before quickly reaching for and grabbing a hold of Madara's wrists. What are you doing? Madara demanded as Naruto smiled. I'm removing us from this world. I have a feeling once all remnants of the Shinju and the Rikudo Sennin leave this world, peace will be obtained, Naruto said before his right eye pulsed with power as he cried tears of blood. Takami Musubi, Kukanten. Kirame, space release. Rift, Naruto howled as a distortion in space formed in front of Naruto, that resembled water being drained out of the top, a whirlpool being formed. It soon took the form of a black portal, and Naruto quickly threw Sasuke and Madara both into the portal. Naruto could feel the pull as his portal, he was almost like a black hole. Naruto could feel the power in his eyes fading quickly. As his final act in this world, Naruto slowly scrawled out a last message onto a sealing paper and dropped it on the ground wrapped around a kunai. Right when the kunai hit the dirt, Naruto was pulled into the portal as it closed instantly. Hinata, who had seen everything occur, rushed from her position and sprinted to where Naruto last stood. Despite the pain of overexertion and chakra exhaustion taking over her body, she continued to run. When she reached the scarred battlefield and went straight for the paper and kunai. On it was scrawled two barely legible words in Naruto's handwriting that would make all that were close to the blonde cry from the loss of a precious person. Goodbye, everyone. In an alternate dimension within the Imperial Palace located in the beautiful city of Kyoto, extremely beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure with alabaster white skin woman, with long beautiful golden blonde hair and matching eyes. She has a very generous large E-cup bosom, 9 golden foxtails and matching ears. This was Yasaka, the daughter of Tamamo and granddaughter of Amaterasu, and was the current ruler of the West Yukai faction in Kyoto. She was currently in the war room within the Imperial Palace. She was glaring at a map of the city of Kyoto. A civil war broke out in between the current West Yukai faction and the rebel forces that wished to destroy all half-breeds. Over the years, a group of yokai rebels joined together under several unknown leaders, with the sole purpose of massacring all half-breeds. Just like her mother, Tamamo Yasaka believed that full-blooded yokai and half-breed yokai should unite as one and not discriminate against each other. Of course, most of the elders within West Yukai faction agreed with Yasaka and Tamamo, while a few others disagreed, believing that they were nothing more than abominations. The rebel yokai even went as far as to associate themselves with a shady group consisting of the old Satan faction, fallen angel, exorcists and sacred gear wielders. As of recently, the forces of Kyoto were being pushed back by the combined force of the shady organization along with the rebel yokai. It didn't help that several dozen full breeds and half-breeds also joined the rebellion. Yasaka bit her lip, drawing a small amount of blood. Her armies were spread so thin, and at this rate, there is no doubt in her mind she would have to reach out to Nurarihyun, the ruler of the East Yukai faction within Tokyo. Giving a frustrated sigh, Yasaka exited the war room, beyond frustrated with the state of her homeland. She despised war. The blonde beauty felt it was a complete waste of time. In the beginning, the rebels' demands were rather shocking. They wished for all half-breeds to be thrown out of the city. Unfortunately, even knowing most of the elders refused this, despite believing half-breeds should not be viewed as equal to full breeds. Without warning, a powerful wave of energy passed over Kyoto. Everything around Yasaka began to shake. The Kyuubi looked outside a nearby window. The normally blue sky had large hair in space-time, as something was expelled from. Whatever the object was, it came crashing through the sky, heading directly into the forest across Kyoto. The impact of the object caused a mini earthquake, causing several windows to crack from the force of the impact. Ya-chan, should we pursue? Yasaka turned to face Ari, someone she considered a sister and all but blood. She was a young ravenette with golden yellow eyes, and had 9 fluffy white tails behind her, with a rather busty figure many would kill for. She was dressed in a custom-made shrine maiden outfit. Yasaka nodded. Yes, gather a team and meet me in the forest, Ari. The crash site. Yasaka and a group of fellow yokai stared at the giant crater. In the center of it laid a strange man. He came screaming out of the sky, crashing into the ground and causing the ground to shake from the impact of the crash. The man had spiky shoulder-length white hair, and clothes he had been wearing were pretty much destroyed. All that was left was a small piece of the white robe he had been wearing, and his pants were shredded. Just where the hell did he come from? I don't recognize his scent, Yasaka-sama. An older male voice came from the group. The yokai had pale blonde hair, and his body was littered with scars. He looked at the white-haired stranger with disgust. The older fox was known as Kuyo, one of the Kyoto's greatest generals. The Hachibi was a war hound and had a strong distaste for half-breeds and all non-yokai. The man despised any method that did not involve violence and took great joy in massacring anyone who supported the rebels in any form. He embraced this war, as he got his blood pumping once more. This unknown will bring nothing but trouble. We must kill him, he is a spy. Yasaka scowled at the elder Yoko's suggestion. Have you gone senile? We don't know what faction he belongs to. Do you really want to cause another war? Don't we have enough to deal with? She growled at the man. They couldn't afford any more enemies. Kuyo growled. Yasaka-sama, you're young. It's best that we remove a possible threat. If we let him live, he could become an enemy down the line. He stepped forward as his claws lengthened, his hand was engulfed in a ghostly blue flame, ready to strike the man. Yasaka was seething with anger at the elder Yoko's quick judgment. "How dare you question me?" The Kyuubi grabbed and choked the elder, lifted him off his feet. Kuyo gripped Yasaka's wrist, trying to break her grip but failed. Yasaka's fangs lengthened as she snarled at hand. "You have done nothing but berate me and undermine my authority since this damn war started," she yelled, tightening her grip around the man's throat. "If you ever challenge me again, I will forget that you are general, and kill you myself." Releasing Kuyo dropped to his knees, coughing, trying to regain his breath. She looked down at the growling at the Yoko. "Do I make myself clear?" Yasaka's words recalled and heartless. Kuyo glared at Yasaka, knowing that challenging her would only result in his death. Being a Kyuubi meant she was substantially more powerful than himself. "You will rue the day you humiliated me, you bitch," the older fox thought darkly. In the meantime, Kuyo swallowed his huge ego and a monstrous amount of pride and begrudgingly nodded his head. "Please forgive me for my foolish behavior, and I hope you will accept my humble apologies." Like many times in the past, a tactical retreat was better than dying, so that he may fight another day. "Good, now, get out of my sight," the blonde beauty ordered. Kuyo excused himself without uttering a word. On the inside he was boiling with rage. Never had he been so humiliated. Glancing out of the corner of his eye, Yasaka was focusing on a young man in the crater. A sickly smile spread across the Hachibi's face. "It's only a matter of time until you fall," he thought before leaving the area. Yasaka then turned her attention back to the young man who caused the crater. Ari approached her sister in all but blood and leader and observed the white-haired man. White skin, muscles, a cute face. He absolutely delicious, Ari thought pervertedly as she licked her lips. Leaned closer, she whispered into Yasaka's ear. "The smoking hot, isn't he, Ya-chan?" Yasaka jumped at her best friend's comment. "Ero no baka. Out of all the things you could possibly say," she whispered harshly, "your panties always drop when a cute guy is involved." Ari giggled in response as she poked Yasaka. Era, just admitted he's cute, isn't he?" The Kyuubi's face flushed. I, she said, flustered. There is no way she was having this conversation again. Especially in front of everyone. Ari grinned as she got closer. Embarrassing her best friend wasn't something she got to do very often anymore. "Oh, are you sure? I mean, just look at his body. You're telling me you don't even want to taste?" Steam began to escape from Yasaka's ears. Shut up, we're not talking about this." "About men?" Ari asked curiously. "Don't tell me you're into women, Ya-chan." "I love you like a sister, but I'm not into you like that, Tilda," she said, now giggling hysterically. People were beginning to stare at the duo. Yasaka was now redder than the ripest tomato. "Damn it, Ari. I swear on my baba you right now, that I will burn you," she growled, glaring daggers at Ari. "You know I can hear the two of you, right?" The white-haired man groaned out weakly, despite the amusement clearly in his voice. Yasaka and Ari gasped, turning attention back to the crater. They met a pair of cerulean blue eyes staring back at them. The young man smiled brightly at the blushing pair. "Oi, if it's not too much trouble, could you please tell me where I am?" Despite him smiling, his body felt like it had been ripped apart and put back together. Yasaka gathered herself, pushing her embarrassment to the side. "You are in yokai territory, what are you doing here?" she said in a stern leader-like tone. The young man gained a confused look. Trying to push himself up into a standing position, he yelped in pain as he dropped to the ground. "Damn it, I don't think that last jutsu would cause such a powerful backlash. It drained my chakra reserves down to almost zero. I can't feel any of my power, even my ears and tails retracted. I can only imagine how long it's going to take for my powers to recharge." The young man thought to himself in pain. Trying to push himself up again, he hacked up a mouthful of blood before dropping to the ground. He thought his body was now composed of primal chakra, just like the Biju, and yet it wasn't, despite his body reforming before his battle with Madara. "What did you do to me, Shinju?" Naruto growled and thought, unaware that the Shinju did not turn them into a chakra-based creature but instead turning him into an actual physical living creature. A primordial beast just like the original Juubi, only much better. Ari almost ran over to Naruto, but Yasaka stopped, causing the ravenette to stare at her with a confused expression. Yasaka fought her instinct to call for her medics. There was a war currently being fought. This man could very well be an enemy. I will not ask you again. Who are you? And what are you doing in my territory? My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto groaned out in pain. He noticed everyone was staring at him curiously. As to why I'm in your territory, I was fighting in a war against a madman. I use a spatial technique to take them out with me. It was supposed to send us to a dimensional void, but I guess it threw me into another dimension altogether. Naruto hissed in pain. The word war caused both Yasaka and Ari to wince. He fought in a war too, but he looks so young? Yasaka thought herself as she stared at Naruto with sadness in her eyes. Poor boy, he sacrificed himself to save everyone. Ari thought as she wanted to hug Naruto. I can tell by the looks in your eyes you're fighting a war too, aren't you? Naruto said as he saw the nod from both Yasaka and Ari. Naruto gave a frustrated sigh. People choose war over words, in their mind is an easier choice. But all they are doing is creating an endless cycle of hatred that will spread across the lands. If people would just sit down and talk with one another instead of fighting, maybe the world be a better place. Naruto said, not knowing whether the elemental nations had established peace or not. Ari smiled at Naruto as Yasaka turned and signaled to her medics to go help Naruto. In Kyoto hospital. Inside the hospital, a blue-haired nurse was treating Naruto's wounds, but things didn't look so good. Naruto had suffered severe chakra exhaustion, along with his body being damaged from the dimensional portal he created. It's like his entire body was severely damaged from the inside out. Several major bones were broken, he was bleeding internally, and his chakra was not returning, and at best he had a 1/1000th of his reserves left. Yasaka knew one thing: Naruto wasn't human, and he had powers like that of yokai, then why wasn't he healing himself? Ari noticed her friend's perplexed expression. Ya-chan, what's the matter? The ravenet whispered to Yasaka. His power in his very being itself feels very like that of a yokai? And most if not all yokai have some degree of self-healing or regeneration. And yet his wounds are healing. Yasaka replied softly, not wanting to be heard. Unfortunately for Yasaka and Ari, Naruto heard them loud and clearly. Is most likely due to the technique I used. It was a spatial ability that allows me to open a rift in space, allowing me to travel across dimensions. I had no clear destination in mind, I only wanted to send the two madmen I have been fighting to the dimensional void. But the rift not only felt like it was pulling my body again, but it was pulling my very soul. I'm not sure what it did to me, or ever how long it would take for my body to recover. I don't even have enough energy left in my body to heal from a paper cut. That explains why he hasn't healed yet. Both Yasaka and Ari thought at the same time. While the nurse named Mia, the purple-haired nurse who is tending in Naruto's wounds, she was a Sanbi no Kitsune, was listening in on the conversation. I'm curious, what kind of yokai are you? Mia asked Naruto, as he had no real external wounds. Most of his injuries were both internally and spiritually. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the word yokai. The only creatures he knew that were yokai were Satori, a creature that emerged from the Gokuraku no Hako box of ultimate bliss, and Morio, the interdimensional demon, with power on par with that of the Biju. Then Naruto understood what she was asking. She was wondering what kind of being he was. I'm a Biju, but I was originally human. Naruto replied softly. The hospital room got dead quiet as they all stared at Naruto with a look of slight fear. Did you just say Biju? Naruto nodded as Ari turned to Yasaka. That shouldn't be, they have all been sealed away in shrines long ago? Yasaka nodded before looking at Naruto. You said you came from another world. She paused as Naruto nodded before she continued. What exactly is a Biju? Because in our world before they were sealed away in shrines. They were powerful yokai who lost themselves, as their power literally ate away their sanity. Yasaka explained. Naruto frowned at that before explaining. A Biju is a mass of primal chakra given consciousness. Many people assume them to be monsters, but they're not, they're simply misunderstood. They have conscious thought and wants and needs just like humans and yokais. Naruto explained. Although I'm different, my body is made from chakra as I first thought. It appears I have become an actual living Biju, made of flesh, bone and muscle, with a pounding heart and blood pumping through my veins. And because I was originally human, I'm far more powerful than the Biju of my world. Naruto said while looking away. This caught everyone by surprise. Naruto was originally human? Just how did he become a Biju, and what kind of creature was he? But they decided not to pry on his privacy too much. Yasaka then turned her attention to Mia, Naruto's nurse. Mia-san, how long until Naruto-san is able to get back on his feet? Mia looked at her leader. This wasn't the first time she had met Yasaka. But she was still nervous. This was the first time Yasaka had ever talked to her, so she had to be professional. Naruto-sama should take it easy for several months at a minimum. In his current state is very, how I see this, weak, and possibly wouldn't be able to defeat a human in his current state. Naruto's eye twitched at being called weak. Ari had an amused smirk on her face. So, he's at our mercy, Tilda. What do you say, Ya-chan? You want to taste that body yet, Tilda? She spoke in a seductive, perverted tone. Both Yasaka and Mia tried to hide their blush to little affect. Naruto was blushing as well. He was glaring at the ravenette Kyuubi in front of him. Don't you even dare. Yasaka growled as Mia fought down her blush and continued. I would recommend bed rest, no strenuous activities, and defiantly no magic. She said as Naruto looked at her as if she was crazy. Magic? Isn't that the stuff in children's stories? Naruto thought in a bewildered manner. Wait, you mean I have to stay in this bed for several months? The Juubi yelled comically. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of a war, and you definitely are in no shape to travel anywhere. However, you are free to stay as long as you need to recover. Yasaka told the white-haired young man. He might have been mentally okay, but physically was another thing. Plus, he seemed to have a knack for lighting up the mood. It was definitely a nice change of pace from the normal despair that surrounded all of them. Ari's perverted, seductive, playful grin returned full force, decided to add her own 2 cents. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, I'm sure there's something we could do to keep you busy, Tilda. She suggested perversely. Ari in no way was shy and heading to the opposite. Yasaka, Mira, and Naruto all choked at Ari's open attempt at bedding the former human. Naruto felt fear coursing through his veins, as his cheeks adorned a bright red tint. Thank you for your offer, both of you. I'll be sure not to take advantage of your hospitality, Naruto said while bowing his head slightly. Ari giggled perversely as blush appeared on her cheeks. I won't mind you taking advent. Yasaka finally having enough slapping her best friend, surrogate sister across the back of her head. Will you stop already? She had more than enough of her perverted antics for one night. Ari was now nursing the large bump that formed on the back of her head. Ya-chan, that's mean. She whined comically with tears forming in her eyes. It's nice to see her acting like herself. Ari thought, knowing that this war was not easy on Yasaka. It forced her to harden up and bottle up all her emotions. Several yokai, all different races, entered the hospital room. Yasaka-sama, there are plans that need your approval. The Kyuubi smiled sadly. She still had responsibilities, turning to the other Kyuubi. Ari, let's go. Naruto needs his rest, and we have work to do. Ari nodded, and just before leaving the dark-haired vixen turned and blew a kiss at Naruto. Yasaka growled and quickly snatched Ari's ear before dragging her out of the room. Oi, Ya-chan, that hurts. 1 month later, Naruto calmly sat on top of the hospital bed he had been staying in for the last month. He was sitting in the lotus position as he was in a deep meditative state. Over the month, Naruto had a lot of time to discover any changes that happened to his body that Shinju neglected to mention. First and foremost, he no longer had chakra. Instead, he now wielded Rikudo no Chikara, 6 paths power, and Rikudo no Senin Chikara, 6 paths sage power. It was a source of energy that was infinitely more powerful than chakra, and digging into the knowledge he received from Shinju, it was also the original power Shinju wielded. Apparently, Kagaya Otsutsuki was too weak to wield Rikudo no Chikara, so she was forced to convert the power into a weaker form known as chakra. This confused Naruto to no apparent end. Kagaya was too weak to wield this power, and why was he strong enough? It was quite simple. Kagaya didn't have chakra when she consumed the Shinju fruit, while Naruto already possessed massive reserves of chakra before gaining power directly from Shinju. Knowing this, Naruto was astonished. This power was overwhelming, one might say, and due to his inexperience of using it, that was the reason why his body was such horrible shape. Naruto also discovered that he could accumulate and generate more Rikudo no Chikara, and his Rikudo no Senin Chikara was created by absorbing nature energy. At the way Naruto is going, he estimated by the end of this year he would be at 100% full power again. Naruto-sama, is time for lunch. Naruto heard the calm, gentle tone of Mia. Opening one of his eyes, he stared at the beautiful nurse before him. Lunchtime already? What time is it? I've only been meditating for about maybe 30 minutes. Naruto asked in confusion as Mia giggled a little bit. Naruto-sama, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, she said politely as Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Are you sure you are meditating and not napping? She asked in a cute tone as Naruto's eye twitched. Yes, I'm sure I wasn't napping, Naruto retorted in an annoyed tone of voice, causing the nurse to giggle again. Now what's all the commotion in here? Naruto turned to see Yasaka, who entered the room with a gentle smile on her face. The Juubi had grown very fond of the beautiful blonde during his stay with the yokai. It really did brighten up his day whenever she visited. They often shared stories from their childhood, although Naruto's stories usually always made Yasaka cry. They also talked about how their culture's different, and must Yasaka surprise Naruto claim that he was both a sage and a shinobi. But something that caught Naruto's eye: Yasaka was not into status, money, or power. Naruto respected this greatly as she wanted peace for her homeland. That was something that he nearly achieved in his home dimension. And he still wanted to this day, and the elemental nations had established peace or not. But at this point, Naruto wasn't sure if he should even return home once his powers for the restore. He felt more at home here than he did in the elemental nations. Ari honestly scared Naruto, as he was afraid to be left alone with her, as he did not trust the Ravenette. He was afraid she might try to rape him when he's not paying attention, or she may convince Yasaka to double-team him. But Naruto is grateful that Yasaka never gave into those beastly urges, and always dragged the perverted Kyuubi out with her. Yasaka looked over at Mia for a second. Mia-san, would it be all right if I took Naruto out for a bit? Yasaka said as she felt bad for him being cooped up in this hospital room. Naruto felt a smile tugging on his lips. Yes, some nice fresh air sounds really good right now. My body is doing much better, but I'm far from 100%. Naruto replied as Mia contemplated the request. I don't see why not, a stroll would do him some good. Mia agreed with a nod, but first make sure you finish your lunch. And don't strain yourself, because if you do, I make sure you never leave this hospital room again for the next 2 months. She threatened, causing Naruto to shiver and Yasaka to giggle. Yes ma'am, Naruto replied as he nodded furiously. One thing was for sure, these women were frightening. After finishing his food, Naruto along with Yasaka left the hospital. It felt wonderful feeling the wind in his hair and the warm sunlight. Naruto felt better already, and he finally got to take in the city of Kyoto. It was nice to see them from his own eyes, and not through a window. Yasaka calmly walks beside Naruto, who had a gentle smile. She had grown quite attached to Naruto in the month that he spent in the hospital. But there were so many mysteries tied around Naruto, causing her curiosity to increase. She wanted to know what kind of techniques sent into her world, and who exactly were the 2 madmen he was fighting against. She was hoping she could get those answers out of Naruto today. Forest of Kyoto. Naruto looked at the beautiful forest around him. It was filled with such life and nature. This place. It's beautiful. Where did you find this place? In front of Naruto was a beautiful pond, surrounded by trees, plants, and all sorts of wildlife. It was simply breathtaking. I used to come here as a child. It helped me think, or when I just wanted to get away from all the politics. And besides Ari, you are the only other person who knows that this place exists. You should feel special about that. Yasaka spoke in a small smile before winking at Naruto. Naruto felt blood rushing to his cheeks, and scratching the back of his head nervously. Hee. I'm honored, and I won't tell a soul, Naruto said as Yasaka smiled. Naruto couldn't help but feel as if she was freeloading off Yasaka. She never asked for anything in return and was incredibly nice to him. He had to think of a way to pay her back. Yes, that will work, but this will be the first time I've ever used this jutsu before though. Let's hope I have enough Rikudo no Chikara to do so, Naruto thought. Naruto closed his eyes as he opened both of his hands. His left hand held an orb of ghostly blue flames, while his right held a world of thick, potent red flames. This caught Yasaka by surprise as she stared at Naruto as her eyes narrowed slightly. What is he doing? Don't tell me he's just been trying to get close to him so he could. Yasaka thought before Naruto said. Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu, creation of all things technique. Yasaka's eyes widened as a cloth materialized on the ground, with multiple types of food and drinks appearing directly on top of it. Naruto, how did you do this? Yasaka practically screamed out in surprise. Naruto sheepishly scratched the back of his head as he chuckled. That would be the Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu. Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu. Yasaka tried the word out. In simple terms, I have mastered the element of yin-yang. I use the power of yin to bring whatever I imagine into reality, and I use the power of yang to breathe life into it. Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu allows me to create anything I can imagine. The only limitation is my imagination. Naruto explained in a sagely tone. Yasaka then looked at the food and back at Naruto. Why would you make this much food? She asked in slight confusion as Naruto blushed a bit before looking away. You've been so nice to me since I arrived here. Far nicer than most people have been in my entire life, so I want to return the favor and make you something nice. And I thought maybe we could eat together. Naruto trailed off as he was never a good at expressing his feelings to women. Blushing brighter than the hottest lava, Yasaka looked away from Naruto, feeling butterflies in her stomach. If you're not careful, I'm not going to let you leave. Yasaka thought before looking at Naruto. Well, let's eat before the food gets cold, or do you want to continue staring off into space? Naruto announced. Yasaka blinked before blushing again as she picked up a pair of chopsticks, picking up a small piece of sushi and putting in her mouth. Much to her surprise, the food was incredibly good, easily on par with 5-star level food if not better. This is incredible Naruto-kun, this food is amazing tilde. She moaned as Naruto chuckled before eating some ramen. 30 minutes had pasted by and the duo had devoured all the food. The food that had been created was sushi, ramen, rice balls, dango, vegetables, and peace tea. That was delicious tilde. Thank you very much for the food Naruto-kun tilde. Yasaka stated in a cheerful tone while rubbing her full stomach. Naruto released a small burp before chuckling. Don't worry about it Yasaka-chan, it's no problem at all. Naruto replied before laying down and putting his hands behind his head. The sun began to set. The Kyuubi and Juubi had spent a couple hours talking and completely lost track of time. I guess it's time to start heading back? I'm pretty sure everyone's worried about you by now. Naruto said as he enjoyed the cool breeze. Yasaka agreed with Naruto's little announcement. I really enjoyed this Naruto-kun, we should do it again sometime. She said with a small blush on her cheeks. Naruto gave a foxy grin. Of course, I have a lot of fun. Naruto said cheerfully. Yasaka then frowned as she bit her lip. Naruto-kun, do you mind if I ask you a question? Naruto heard the seriousness in her voice even though he was merely present. Let me guess you want to know the identity of the two madmen I was fighting in the technique that sent me here? Naruto asked as Yasaka was taken back by how easy he saw through her. If it's not too much trouble. She asked in a rather nervous tone while Naruto sighed. Now it's not too much trouble but it's a rather long story. Naruto is stated as Yasaka was surprised that he was so willing to tell her. Well, you see, there was a clan in my world, the Uchiha clan, and it's just a stone tablet that possessed a message that was corrupted by the evil entity. A man named Madara, the most powerful chief in history, read this tablet and took what the corrupted information said to heart. This then caused a domino effect that rippled throughout the ages. He eventually found a boy named Obito who was my sensei Kakashi's best friend. He broke this boy by showing him the one thing he loved the most, a girl named Rin, who died at Kakashi's hand. This caused Obito to break and he viewed the world in a very dark and sinister way like that of Madara. Naruto said as Yasaka her hands over her mouth as she gasped. Obito used the same tactics to corrupt a boy who Madara implanted in his eyes Inta, as he had grown old and decrepit. He did the exact same thing to Nagato, forcing him to watch his best friend die by his own hands. Later both Obito and Nagato gathered the most powerful and dangerous shinobi across the land and created a criminal organization called Akatsuki. Their only goal was to collect the 9 Biju, seal them within the Gedo Mazo and revive the Juubi. They'd be so strong that it can literally obliterate an entire country within the blink of an eye simply by roaring. Years went by and I was able to defeat Nagato, and I was able to help him turn over new leaf. I changed his views on life and he agreed to believe and even revived all the people get killed in my village. Obito then declared war on the world, as he collected 7 out of the 9 Biju already. And later, Madara was resurrected as an immortal zombie, and the two of them resurrected the Juubi in an incomplete state since he only has small pieces of Gyuki the Hachibi, and Kurama the Kyuubi. Obito became the Jinchuriki or the host of the Juubi. Naruto said calmly as he looked at Yasaka. How powerful was Obito? Yasaka asked, obviously curious. Naruto gained a grim expression on his face. He was even stronger than the incomplete Juubi that he resurrected. Jinchurikis that have control over their Biju are naturally stronger than the Biju they possess. Is no doubt my mind he could destroy the world many times over with his power. We get defeated him by the skin of our teeth. Naruto said with a dark expression on his face. After Obito lost and Madara forced Obito to revive him, putting him in a near-death-like state, and with the newly revived Madara and reclaiming one of his Rinnegan eyes. He was far stronger than Obito after he became the host of the incomplete Juubi, and he proved it when he literally annihilating all 9 Biju with a single glance. He then ripped Kurama the Kyuubi out of me and nearly killed me if it wasn't for a little help. Naruto said as Yasaka was frightened. If Madara was that much stronger than Obito, how strong was he? Absorbed the Juubi. The Shinju, the progenitor or and god of my world, visited me when I was in a near-death-like state. It gave me an ultimatum: either accept its power to defeat Madara or die. Naturally, I didn't want to die and let my world fall into chaos, so accept its power, and I gained enough power to match Madara, who had become the complete Juubi Jinchuriki host. As I was faring well against him until my former friend Sasuke, who is also an Uchiha, joined the fight. He viewed me and Madara as abominations and wanted to kill us, as he blamed us for the way the world was. What she was half right. Naruto stated. As for the technique, I used on and it was called Takami Musubi, Kukanten. Kirame, High Creator, Space Release, Rift. Due to my inexperience with the new power received, Shinju and my dojutsu left me in the state you found me in. Naruto finished telling Yasaka a very watered-down version of what happened. Yasaka's eyes widened at the name of Naruto's technique. He has a technique named after one of the Shinto primordial gods? Yasaka thought before stared at Naruto with sadness in her eyes. She looked into his bright cerulean blue eyes. Naruto-kun, how much have you truly gone through? She thought sadly before leaning forward, standing on her tiptoes before giving the Juubi a soft kiss. Naruto's eyes widened. She's kissing me. Naruto soon relaxed and kissed the blonde kitsune back. After several minutes they pulled back. Yasaka felt lightheaded as she tried to catch her breath. The emotions that were circulating inside of her caused her to come Naruto's right cheek. Never change, Naruto Uzumaki-kun, she said softly, emotion heavy in her voice. Naruto, who was also catching his breath, gently held her hand that was touching his cheek. Naruto knew from that moment on she was the one destined not only to be his mate but also possibly inherit the Tensigen gift. The Imperial Palace. Yasaka was currently sitting on the edge of her bed blushing, as Ari was standing in front of her with a seductive smile face. You kissed Naru-chan? Ari beamed. Yasaka and Naruto were a couple? Yasaka quickly covered the ravenette's mouth. Shut up. Do you want the whole world to know? She hissed. Now I'm going to remove my hand if you won't shout. Do you understand me, Ari? The flirtatious girl nodded. Yasaka moved her hand away slowly. Now you can talk. Well, how was it? Was it good? Did he or you use tongue? Ari began firing off question after question. Yasaka's eye twitched. Do you care if I answer those questions hypothetical? Ari nodded eagerly, awaiting Yasaka's answer. Yes, we did kiss. It was amazing. The blonde Kyuubi answered with a blush present on her cheeks. Ari began to squeal with joy. Oh Tilda, I'm so happy for you, Ya-chan, Ari announced before she pouted. Although I did want to get him first. I guess it's okay since it's you. In all honesty, Ari was happy for her friend. Maybe this was her destined mate. Yasaka spent her entire life preparing to become Kyoto's leader. The blonde shouldered a heavy burden she was not prepared for. She deserved happiness in her life. And it seems Naruto was the one to provide. Ari was more than happy for her friend. They will definitely make cute babies, Tilda, she thought with a giggle. So, is he big? Ari asked with a perverted grin while winking her eyes at the blonde. Yasaka choked before she threw a dense ball of golden kitsune by, which was aimed directly at Ari's face. Unknown location. Far off in the northwest, reaches far beyond Kyoto's borders, a familiar pale blonde-haired man with 8 tails swaying behind him. Kuyo, you better have a good damn reason for being here. Because if you don't kill you right here and now, General? A growl escaped from a figure wearing a hood and cloak. Kuyo chuckled, his scarred face adorned an arrogant smile. It's good to see you too, Yogara. I see you still have that temper that you're famous for. Although it's the reason why you lost your baby Nei-san. Causing the hooded figure to growl. The second figure, identified as Yogara, lowered his hood. He was a pale red-headed kitsune who had a pair of pale blue eyes. The yokai had 9 tails swaying behind him. His face donned several scars. Yogara, a pure-blooded kitsune, he was one of the leaders of the rebellion. Yogara seethed with rage, his fists trembling. Unlike several other high-ranking yokai who joined the rebellion for power, Yogara to remove all those who wished to harm half-breeds. Kuyo was the very men who started the civil war. Resistance was peaceful before the general started to outright massacre any peaceful gatherings. Upon seeing this, Yogara refused to stand around and allow this evil to go unpunished. That is the reason why he joined the rebellion, and he filed to put an end to Kuyo's evil deeds. Oh, those are some words coming from a traitor. I can only imagine how Ari would feel knowing that you turned into a savage beast. Kuyo said with a sickly smile. Yogara unleashed a massive amount of power, causing Kuyo to take a few steps back. You leave her out of this, Kuyo. I swear on my parents' name, if you so much as put a single scratch on her, I will kill you. Yogara growled out. Ari was his lover. She, unfortunately, would not join him in the rebellion. She refused to abandon Yasaka. This was a sore subject with him, and he detested talking about it, especially not with this man. Kuyo's already large grin widened. Ah, did I strike a nerve? Worry not, I have no plans of harming your former mate. Actually, I would like to bring the two of you together again by helping me end this war. I'm sure you agree it's been going on for too long. Kuyo pulled out a scroll from his sleeve, before throwing it to Yogara. This is information on Kyoto's watchtowers. It will help you devise a plan to get close enough to assault Kyoto undetected. A week from now, you and your allies will attack, and bring an end to Yasaka's reign. My personal squad of yokai will assist you in your assault. Yogara lost his composure for a second before narrowing his eyes. Kuyo was never the generous type. There are always strings attached. What would we gain by agreeing to this plan? Quite simple. Both half-breeds and full-breeds will gain equal rights. As long as you agree to make me a new ruler of Kyoto. Yasaka was too inexperienced, she's too kind, and she lacks the balls to lead our people. I do. Kuyo folded his arms. Do we have a deal, Yogara? It's more than fair. Even if they got into Kyoto undetected, Yogara was not only the third strongest kitsune, but he was also extremely intelligent and a tactical master. He was far from stupid. He knew as long as Yasaka stayed within Kyoto's walls, it was impossible for any yokai to defeat her. Immense magical energy channeling underneath the city. The ley lines could provide her a nearly limitless supply of magical power. It's pointless as long as Yasaka stays within Kyoto. I will be leading not only my men but the members of the Chaos Brigade into a slaughter. Yogara thought aloud. Kuyo simply laughs as he came up with a solution. I've already got a plan to block her off from the ley lines. Although it's a small window of time, but it should give us more than enough time to destroy the blonde-haired bitch. Yogara began to think over the warmonger-obsessed general's offer. He had grown tired of his hair and wanted it to end. I'll only agree to this if you allow Ari to go free. I want no harm to come to her. He still cared very deeply for the Ravenette, and kitsunes never turns their backs on loved ones. It was a pleasure doing business with you, Yogara. I assure you he will not regret this. The elder Yoko was pleased. Kyoto would finally be his. Time skip. A week later, Naruto's room. Naruto had just finished his round of physical therapy to get his body back into shape since he had gotten very laziness in the month and 1 week he had spent in the hospital room. Off to the side, Yasaka, Ari, and Mia were all watching Naruto as they were enjoying some tea and playing shogi. Wow, Naruto-chan is very fit, and he's complaining about his gotten lazy and being out of shape? It looks like the kami chiseled his body out of marble? Ari said while staring at Naruto, who was wearing nothing more than a pair of baggy pants, as he discarded his kimono. I must agree with you, Ari-sama. Naruto-sama, he's just so different from most yokai. He doesn't care about his status, nor does he care what people think about him even. Honestly, he seems like the ideal leader, no offense Yasaka-sama of course. Mia thought aloud as Yasaka simply shrugged it off. Don't worry about it Mia-san. Naruto is a special individual, and an incredible friend that I would never turn my back on ever. Yasaka said, as she cherished the bond she formed with the Juubi and she would never let anyone break their bond. So, when are you going to ask him on a date Ya-chan? Ari asked with a smile, as Mia quickly covered her mouth with her hands. Yasaka glared at her best friend. That's none of your business, and whoever said I was interested in him in that way? Yasaka hissed. Ari smirked. Oh, is that so? So that means I can take him on a date and then rock his world tilde. She said perverted. Mia's face was now burning red with embarrassment while Yasaka now her eyes in rage. There is no way I'm going to hand over my Naruto-kun to you. Yasaka yelled out before quickly covered her mouth as her cheeks were now bright red. Ari gave a grin. Oh, so now it's your Naruto-kun tilde? Ari said in a teasing manner as Yasaka was about to retort when Naruto interrupted. Yasaka-chan, I sense possibly several hundred signatures heading towards Kyoto, and whoever they're fast. This caused everyone to instantly grow quiet, as Ari was the first to speak. What you mean? I don't sense anything? She retorted before a thunderous roar echoed throughout the land. Yasaka. The powerful voice could be heard throughout Kyoto, alarming the population they were under attack. Yasaka's body froze as she gasped. Impossible. There is no way Yogara could have gotten this close undetected? Yasaka thought in a bewildered manner. She knew Kuyo had taken his personal squad of elite yokai a few days ago. He claimed that his spies had located the enemy's base of operation and was planning on attacking them. Kyoto's defense was severely weakened without the general's support. Yasaka looked at her best friend. Ari. The ravenette nodded, her tails and ears sprouted out of her body. Mia, stay with Naruto. I have a feeling this fight is going to get very intense, and I want you to instruct the staff to evacuate the wounded, do you understand? Mira nodded hesitantly. The gentle nurse was not used to being in such a high-pressured situation, but that wasn't going to stop her from following orders. I won't let you down Yasaka-sama. Naruto frowned at this. He was no way he was just going to sit down and allow the people he cherished the most head straight into a war zone. Even if Naruto was currently weakened, he was more than capable of dealing with a bunch of yokai. Clenching his fists tightly, his eyes were cold and sharp as he glanced at Yasaka, her 9 tails flowing freely giving him smile. I'm sorry Naruto, but you are still in no shape to fight. This is not your fight, stay here where it's safe. She said, to which she saw Naruto scowled. Like hell I'm going to stand here and let the two of you going to Warzone alone. I've already lost too many friends already, no way I refuse to let it happen to the two of you. Naruto spoke in the emotionless tone that sent chills down the 3 kitsune's backs. Yasaka's eyes started to water slightly. I'm afraid you don't have a choice in the matter, she said sadly, as she turned to Ari who understood what her friend wanted her to do. Her hands began to glow a light pink before casting a light pink mist around Naruto. The Biju could no longer move his muscles, his eyes widened. It was like he was under a powerful genjutsu. Damn it, she froze me. Damn it, why would they listen to me? Naruto thought in an angry manner. I'm sorry, Naruto. This is the only way I can ensure your safety, I don't want to see with hurt. Let's go Ari. The pair of kitsune left the open courtyard, as they were ready to face the oncoming threat. Several minutes went by and Naruto's body was still paralyzed. Mia had already informed the staff of the ongoing pandemic. Naruto-sama, I think it's time to bring you back your room, she said calmly as she reached out to grab Naruto, only to quickly pull her hand back as she noticed a pale silver-ish white aura began to feel away at the mist Ari had put on him. Naruto-sama? I will not allow them to throw their lives away. Naruto roared as his aura exploded from his body. The force of his power knocked Mia over. Mia-chan, I'm afraid I must save those 2 Baka no Kitsune before they get themselves killed, Naruto said as he began to walk away. Then perhaps you should take us with you? An elegant voice called out from behind Naruto as he turned around. Who are you? Naruto asked. Yasaka was stunned. She could not believe her eyes. A fairly large army could be seen gathering on the very borders of Kyoto. But what truly made her blood boil was who was in the army. Kuyo and his personal squadron of yokai, the very general of her, was standing beside Yogara, with several of her very own subordinates. That traitor. Ari hissed furiously. She always knew Kuyo was an arrogant stuck-up asshole, but to outright betray them was something she never suspected. Yasaka began to grow nervous. The combined effort of both Yogara a Kyuubi and Kuyo a Hachibi was very dangerous. Yasaka knew they were trying to draw her out because as long as she remained in Kyoto she had access to the ley lines which could supply her with near-endless supply of magical power. Ari, gather whatever forces you can, and garrison with the civilians. Because if I failed to defeat them, I want you to retreat, and make sure our people are safe. Ari was taken back as she gasped. There's no way I'm leaving you to fight them alone. Yasaka glared at the Ravenet. That's an order, Ari. Ari was shaken up by Yasaka's change in demeanor as she nodded. The Ravenet body began to glow, changing into her kitsune form. A 10-meter-tall kitsune which was white and black in color. She ran off and filed her leader's orders. Yasaka closed her eyes as she cried tears of sorrow before her body began to glow like Ares. This ends now one way or another, Yasaka thought. Yogara narrowed his eyes as he watched Yasaka transformed into her fox form. He turned to see Kuyo, who was grinning like a madman. It's time to take you down a couple notches, Haim. Kuyo said as he snapped his fingers. It's time to begin a new age. A large magic circle appeared in the center of Kyoto as a large explosion could be seen in the middle of the city. Yogara was taken back and his eyes widened. The general just blew up a good portion of Kyoto just to get rid of the ley lines. Have you completely gone insane? You'll blow the entire city. We need the ley lines to keep the city stable. The Kyuubi would have never agreed to the general's plan if he was planning on destroying the city. Kuyo simply chuckled. Do you take me for a fool, Yogara? I merely destroyed the connection between Yasaka and the city. But if we do not hurry up and re-establish the link once Yasaka has been dealt with, all of this will be for nothing. Yogara growled, not liking the general's strategy. Well, there's not much I can do at this point. Kuyo pulled out looked like a marble-sized red ball from his kimono sleeve. Yogara rose an eyebrow in confusion as he watched the old general swallow the small ball before he witnessed the general grow the ninth tail as his power increased tenfold. Now we have a better chance of defeating that bitch. Yogara narrowed his eyes. I should have known he gained his power through drugs and enhancements. I bet he's never trained to gain his life. Yogara thought disgust as he already despised working with the general. Both Kyuubis transformed into their fox forms, matching Yasaka in size. Yogara had red fur, while Kuyo was a hairless white humanoid box-like creature, their bodies recovered in scars. The odds were not in Yasaka's favor anymore. To Kyuubi was simply too much for her to handle, but it was too late to run now. Kuyo turned his head towards the rebel army, which was 2,000 strong. Hold your positions until we destroy the Kyuubi, the giant fox ordered. He then faced Yogara. Are you ready? Yogara didn't even bother giving a verbal response, as he charged towards the city. Kuyo grinned, following close behind. Soon, very soon Kyoto you will be mine. He thought darkly, completely unaware that he was being watched. Yasaka felt a jolt of pain rushing her body, as she began gasping for air. What happened? The connection, it's gone? The golden Kyuubi glanced up and saw the two Kyuubi charging towards the city. I have no choice, I'll have to make do without the ley lines. Yasaka had no choice but to fight. She would give her life for Kyoto. Roar! Releasing a powerful roar as the current leader of Kyoto charged forward towards the two foxes. Yasaka leapt over the walls of Kyoto, and quickly set her sights on Kuyo. Quickly slamming directly into the Yoko, causing a minor earthquake as she pinned the traitorous general down. You traitor! She screamed in rage and attempted to bite his jugular. Erg! Yasaka howled in pain as Yogara bit down on her leg and threw her. Kuyo took this opportunity and fired a massive wall of blue flames at Yasaka. Quickly gathering her Yuki, Yasaka cancelled out Kuyo's kitsune bai with her own golden flames. Yogara charged forward as did Yasaka. The slams their heads together, causing another minor earthquake. Yogara was unfortunately slightly weaker than Yasaka as he was pushed back. Gah! He cried as he was sent backwards. Kuyo took advantage of Yasaka's distracted state by slamming his claws into Yasaka's rib cage. Uugh! Yasaka howled as she released a 360-degree wave of fire which forced her retreat as he now stood next to Yogara. The two male foxes began to charge to fireballs. Yogara's was red, while Kuyo's was blue. The two fireballs converged into one large massive purple orb of Kitsune Bai. Yasaka narrowed her eyes as she began to form an equal-size ball of golden flames. The three Kyubis launched their attack at each other, which cancel each other out in a fiery explosion. Yogara then charged at Yasaka, aiming for her neck, Kuyo charging from her left side. Yasaka quickly jumped over Kuyo as she whipped the traitorous general the back one of her tails. Kuyo was sent crashing into Yogara before Yasaka prepared another fireball, which she shot at the duo. Ru! Both male Kyubi screamed in agony, as they quickly used their Yuki to put out the flames. Yasaka quickly pounds on top of Kuyo and unleashed a fury of powerful strikes from her paws and tails. Unfortunately, Yogara bit down on Yasaka's shoulder, channeling as much Yuki to his jaws as possible. One thing a Yoko had over a Kitsune was they still had humanoid hands instead of paws. Using this to his advantage, Kuyo channeled a large amount of Yuki to his right hand before scoring Yasaka's exposed belly, piercing the skin. Yasaka spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling her knees, and began to buckle. Her vision began to go in and out. Both the rebel army leader and the traitorous general unleashed a barrage of fire-based attacks upon Yasaka. Yasaka no longer had the strength to maintain her true form, as she was his turn to her human form. Her shrine maiden attire was staying with her blood. Yogara and Kuyo shifted back to their human forms. Both of them had slight burn marks from Yasaka herself. Yogara knelt down next to Yasaka, checking if she still had a pulse. It was there, but it was very weak. "So, is she still alive?" Kuyo asked, obviously impatient about something. Yogara nodded in response. "Well then move, I'm going to finish the job." Yogara glared at the general. Sure, he was upset with Yasaka's decisions, but he would never outright kill her. She was like a sister to him. And Ari would never forgive him if he let Yasaka die. Out of the question. "This bitch humiliated me, I intend to have my revenge." Kuyo spat out angrily. The general formed a massive wall of blue flames in his palm. "Out of my way, Yogara, this is the price for peace." "No, I will not let you kill her. Despite us being on opposite sides, I still consider her friend. And Ari would never forgive me if I let her die. I only agreed to your plan so we could possibly end this war, but I see you have no desire to end this war, do you? After all, you are the one who started this war in the first place. You believe that half-breeds should be killed a long time ago. That's the reason why the rebellion started in the first place, because of you." Yogara roared in anger. "You are a threat to everyone in Kyoto. It was a mistake to work beside you. You'll kill everyone who doesn't follow you blindly like a puppet." Yogara growled. "No." Yogara's eyes widened as he turned around and seeing Ari in her fox form running towards them. "What are you doing here, Ari? Get out of here." Yogara stared at his mate changing into her human form. Yuki hasn't changed in the slightest. She was as beautiful as he remembered. Yuki let her tears flow freely, looking at the state of her closest friend. She knelt and cradled Yasaka's head on her lap. "Don't hurt her, I beg you." The ravenet cried. Yogara turned his head back towards the general. He knew just how much the girl's heart must be shattering right now. Ari tearfully looked at the man she loved. How could you harm her so badly, Yo-kun?" she asked, her voice breaking. Yogara fist tightening. "I thought it was the best and the do at the time. But I realize I was wrong. Get her out of here now. I'm going to kill this traitorous son of a bitch right now." Yogara said softly, knowing Ari wouldn't listen to them. She would fight beside him to the bitter end. "That's quite a shame. I thought you would be more cold-hearted in this, Yogara. I guess I was wrong," Kuyo said as he reached into his back pocket and pulled out another pill before he ate it. His body began healing as his muscle mass increased. His tails were engulfed in blue flames. Black markings spread across his body. "I guess I'll kill you along with those two as well." Yogara felt the bead of sweat traveling down his forehead. In all reality, he had been offered those pills by several old Satan faction members. But he knew there had to be some massive drawback. To increase one's power so much that he went from 8 tails to 9 simply by eating one pill was frightening. Yogara's eyes widened as he hacked out a mouthful of blood. Glancing down, Kuyo had stabbed him in the stomach with his own hand. Yogara dropped to the ground, clutching his wound. "Yogara!" Ari yelled. "I feel I must come clean to you, Yogara. I never intended to honor our deal. Once I took control of the ley lines, I was going to wipe your army out. Don't you worry about Ari, I'll take good care of her, you have my word, Tilda." Kuyo said, laughing sinisterly. Ari threw a fireball that hit Kuyo dead in the face. Yogara's eyes widened. The smoke and flames cleared, revealing an extremely pissed-off Kuyo who was glaring murderously at Ari as he opened his hand as a large orb of chaotic dark blue flames. "You bitch! You're dead!" Kuyo yelled out the top of his lungs. Yogara's eyes widened. Oh no, is no way she could even remotely survive that level of Kitsunbai. Yogara thought as fear gripped his heart. Rearing back his hand, Kuyo stabilized the chaotic massive of fire. Thrusting his hand forward, the entire area was illuminated by the wave of blue flames itself, making it nearly impossible to see its approach. Ari was too scared to defend herself, leaving herself open for the attack. Yogara's body began to move on its own, not even thinking about the consequences that would come. "I made a promise and I'm never going to break it. I'll never let anything happen to you, Ari-chan," Yogara thought to himself as he ran forward, hoping to intercept the Kitsunbai. "Raw!" Kuyo yelled as the wave of fire homed in on its target as it was mere meters away from hitting Ari. Within a split second, Yogara appeared in front of Ari with his arms spread out. No! Ari cried in surprise. Yogara gritted his teeth before he released a shriek of pain as the fireball hit him dead on. He had no time to form a barrier. Yogara's screams of pain filled the area as his clothing was ripped from his body. His flesh was burnt and ripped apart, blood sprayed from his wounds. Yogara could feel his organs being ruptured from the attack as blood gushed from his mouth. The attack soon exploded, shaking the area. Kuyo smirked before his eyes widened with surprise. Standing in front of him was a severely injured and bleeding Yogara. His clothes were destroyed when he had a smirk on his face. "Why, Yogara-kun, why?" Ari cried. Ari-chan, run," Yogara said before he collapsed to the ground. Yasaka had just gained consciousness shortly before Ari attacked Kuyo. Her body was aching, her vision was blurred. She watched her best friend cry over Yogara's extremely injured body. Kuyo noticed Yasaka finally regaining consciousness as he advanced towards her with a murderous expression on his face. "Finally, I can exact my revenge for the humility you put me through. After I kill you, I'll take the position of leader and I'll find that whore you call a mother and enjoy raping her." Kuyo laughed sinisterly as tears streamed out of Yasaka's eyes. Extending his hand towards Yasaka. "Here's a little secret before I send you to hell. I'm the one who killed your father and framed it on the devils." Yasaka's eyes widened before her body filled with rage. "You wretched swine, I'll get you for this, mark my words." Yasaka yelled as the Yoko rolled his eyes before ghostly blue flames formed in his open palm. "That's nothing but an empty threatheim, and you know it now. Say goodbye, I'll be sure to send your Ka-chan packing soon enough," Kuyo said with a sinister smile. Yasaka closed her eyes, preparing for the pain. In the blink of an eye, a figure appeared in front of Yasaka, extending his hand before an immense amount of pressure slammed into Kuyo, blasting him backwards. Yasaka couldn't believe her eyes. Naruto had saved her. Naruto, how did you get OU? Don't worry about that. Just stay back, I don't want you to get caught up in this. Because I'm going to crush this traitorous trash. Naruto spoke without turning around as he flared a brilliant white aura that caused chunks of earth and rocks to levitate. Kuyo released a sickly, ghostly blue aura that resembled flames. "No, you don't." Kuyo attempted to stand up but was interrupted by Naruto, who pierced him through the shoulder with a blade of black and white lightning. Kuyo instantly dropped to the ground as the lightning blade cut deeper into his shoulder. "I'm going to break you," Naruto said in a deathly calm voice. Yasaka and Ari had never heard him speak so serious before. It scared them to no apparent end as they felt chills go down their backs. Kuyo leaned back before he gripped lightning blade and ripping it out of his shoulder. Standing up as the one you shoulder began to close. "Just what the hell are you? You have no right to be involved in this battle. I was supposed to win and that blonde-haired bitch was supposed to die here." Kuyo yelled at the white-haired man. "You know, just listen to your voice makes me sick. You know I wasn't intending on revealing this so soon, but I'm going to show you your place, which is far beneath me," Naruto said as his canine teeth sharpened into long fangs. His fingernails turned black and lengthened into black claws. A pair of white fox ears popped out of his head. And finally, 10 fluffy white fox tails erupted from his tailbone. "I am the king of the Biju. The Juubi no Kitsune, the Futarim no Juubi, second Juubi. And most of all, I am your end. Naruto roared as he increased his power to the maximum amount he had recovered, which was around 9% of his maximum power with no power-ups. And with this amount of power, Naruto easily had God-class power. Yasaka and Ari breaths hitched. Did they just hear Naruto, right? He was the king of the Biju and a Juubi. No way, Naruto-chan has 10 tails? Ari thought to herself in shock. Yasaka's whole body was trembling. She could feel Naruto's power. It made her and Ari look like nothing more than kits in comparison. Naruto-kun, you are incredible. The power of a Juubi, it's far more than I could possibly ever imagined? Yasaka thought as she stared at her first true male friend. Kuyo was enraged and in shock. That can't be. There's no level beyond the 9th tail. How did you obtain your 10th tail, tell me? The Kyuubi no Yoko roared in anger. Naruto simply snickered a bit. Despite how angry he was, he couldn't help but feel his prankster side come back a bit. Unfortunately, the 10th tail is only available to Biju, so, unfortunately, Kitsunes and Yokos are unable to obtain it. But I will give you a demonstration of my power if that will suffice. Kuyo gritted his teeth in anger. The Biju are nothing more than superpowered yokai. Now tell me how you obtain this power. Kuyo screamed in frustration as Naruto gave a fanged grin. He couldn't help it, the stupid general was wide open. I trained all day today, Naruto said, which caused the mixed reaction from everyone. Despite the seriousness of the situation and how much emotional and physical pain had been distributed today, Yasaka and Ari found hard to suppress a giggle of amusement. Kuyo's face was red with anger as he slammed his tails into the ground, causing it to crack. Oh, you think you're being cute? The frustrated Yoko screamed in anger. Oh no, I'm not cute. I'm adorable, Naruto said with a grin, which caused Yasaka and Ari to finally break down and start laughing. Kuyo felt something snapped inside of them as he rushed forward, attempting to hate Naruto with his fists. Unfortunately, Naruto dodged every one of his attacks as he began to weave in and out of all Kuyo's attacks. Naruto quickly snatched one of Kuyo's hands before throwing the general over his shoulder. The general quickly caught himself and landed on the ground, only for Naruto the blur right in front of him. Naruto then threw a lightning-fast punch. Kuyo barely had any kind of dodged strike as Naruto continuously sent attack after attack. Kuyo brought up his forearm to block, which Naruto quickly broke with an uppercut to the Yoko's chin. Naruto then delivered a powerful punch to Kuyo's stomach, before repeatedly punching him in the face. Naruto then brought his fist down on top of Kuyo's head before delivering a powerful axe kick to his neck. Kuyo was sent tumbling across the ground. He came to a stop as he now laid on his back. His eyes widened as Naruto came down with a powerful stump aimed for the general's head. Kuyo rolled away before bringing his 9 tails together and forming a massive wheel of blue flames. Quickly releasing the attack towards Naruto, Naruto spat out a huge torrent of water which doused the flames. Kuyo's eyes widened in surprise. That's impossible. Kitsunes and Yokos can't use water or any other element outside of fire. How can you use water? He demanded as Naruto sighed. It's a side effect of being a Juubi. I can utilize all 5 elements: earth, fire, lightning, water, and wind. I can also use yin, yang as well, which is without a doubt my most powerful element. Naruto said as he crossed his arms underneath his chest. The more I find out about you, Naruto-kun, the more powerful you turn out to be. But no matter how strong you are, no matter how inferior I become to you, I will always cherish our friendship no matter what. Yasaka thought herself as Ari had a similar thought as well. Kuyo took a step back as he realized just how much trouble he truly was in. This isn't good. He's toying with me. He's not even putting any effort into any of his attacks. A tactical retreat would be the best option. It's better than dying. My pride may be hurt, but I will live to fight another day, and I will destroy you, Juubi. Kuyo thought before his eyes widened as Naruto appeared right in front of him. I'm not going to let you escape, Naruto simply said as Kuyo's eyes widened even further. Naruto whipped Kuyo across the face with one of his tails, sending the new Kyuubi skidding across the ground before he came to a full stop. Naruto flew towards the traitorous Yoko, who immediately sat up before Naruto stomped him in the face several times. Using one of his tails, Naruto hit Kuyo in the chin, sending him upwards several feet before Naruto appeared above him. Raw, Naruto roared as he punched Kuyo in the stomach, sending him crashing to the ground. Naruto then stomped Kuyo in the chest and punched him several times in the stomach before picking them up by the neck. Naruto then pouring all his power into his free hand and punched Kuyo in the stomach as hard as he possibly could. The old Yoko dropped to his knees as he vomited out a mouthful of blood. Naruto then elbowed the Yoko in the back, causing him to fall to the ground. Naruto glared at the shaking mess before him. Naruto hated people like this, and he also hated people would hurt those who are precious to him. Just seeing the shape Yasaka was in made his skin crawl as he wanted to kill this man. Naruto gave a calm inside before he turned around and began to walk towards the others. Yasaka and Ari were all frozen in place. They noticed the emotionless expression on Naruto's face. I believe that's more than enough for him. In all honesty, killing him would be an act of mercy towards him. Plus I believe those two like to ask him a few questions. Naruto said while pointing at the group. What do you mean there's no one behind us? Ari asked in a confused tone. Naruto gave a small smile. Are you sure about that? Look again. Haha you, baba you. Yasaka cried in surprise. Tamamo-sama, Amaterasu-sama. Ari yelled out in surprise. Tamamo was a beautiful middle-aged woman who resembled Yasaka greatly, from the golden blonde hair to golden yellow eyes. She looked more like an older sister and mother if you ask Naruto. Amaterasu was a beautiful middle-aged woman with long silky and ebony-colored hair that flowed down her back like a waterfall reaching waist length. Her bangs flowed down her forehead just above the brow line, her eyebrows within. Her eyes had a beautiful oriental shape to them, as her irises were sharp like a hawk's and they were molten gold in color that held millennia worth of knowledge and understanding. Her lips were thin and small but kissable. She wore a beautiful silk kimono that had a mix of white and red, a pink sash with a gold obi tightly wrapped around her waist. Haha you, why are you here? Yasaka asked in confusion as Tamamo gazed at her daughter with sadness in her eyes. I'm sorry my Masumi, if I would have known this was happening I would have been here immediately. But as you know, being the Masumi of Amaterasu comes with many responsibilities that I must tend to. Tamamo apologized. Amaterasu steps forward as well, staring at Yasaka with nothing but sadness. Please forgive me my precious Mago Masumi. I am to blame for this if I didn't take my Masumi and your haha you after ceremonial transferal of leadership. Amaterasu stopped as Yasaka pulled both her and Tamamo into a hug, and she began to shake. I always thought. Yasaka tried to speak but she couldn't. Ari reached over and began to rub Yasaka's back. Naruto, despite being Yasaka's friend, felt awkward, as he didn't want to interrupt this bonding moment in between family members. Several minutes later Yasaka had finally calmed down, to the point where she was no longer crying but her eyes were still red and puffy. I always thought you just dumped this job off on me and just ran away. Yasaka finally managed to say. This caused both Amaterasu and Tamamo's eyes to widen. They had never realized Yasaka felt that way. Naruto didn't say anything but whatever respect he still had for Amaterasu and Tamamo dwindled. I see. Well, I wouldn't blame you if you hit the both of us for that. Tamamo said before glancing at Naruto, who gave her a half-heated glare which caused her to flinch. Despite Tamamo being the Masumi of Amaterasu, she stood little chance of defeating Naruto. And the worst part was she knew he was holding back, although she didn't know he was severely weakened now. Amaterasu brought her hand up to her mouth before clearing her throat. But due to his little skirmish with Kuyo, we now have all the evidence we need to put him behind bars. And possibly execute him for killing my son-in-law. Amaterasu spat out. Ari raised an eyebrow as did Yasaka. Wait, do you mean? Ari asked as Naruto began to explain. Well, I guess I as well start from the beginning of how I met these two. Naruto began. Flashback. Naruto frowned at this. He was no way he was just going to sit down and allow the people he cherished the most head straight into a war zone. Even if Naruto was currently weakened, he was more than capable of dealing with a bunch of yokai. Clenching his fists tightly, his eyes were cold and sharp as he glanced at Yasaka, her 9 tails flowing freely, giving him smile. I'm sorry Naruto, but you are still in no shape to fight. This is not your fight, stay here where it's safe. She said, to which she saw Naruto scowled. Like hell I'm going to stand here and let the two of you going to Warzone alone. I've already lost too many friends already, no way, I refuse to let it happen to the two of you. Naruto spoke in the emotionless tone that sent chills down the three kitsunes' backs. Yasaka's eyes started to water slightly. "I'm afraid you don't have a choice in the matter," she said sadly, as she turned to Ari, who understood what her friend wanted her to do. Her hands began to glow a light pink before casting a light pink mist around Naruto. The Biju could no longer move his muscles. His eyes widened. It was like he was under a powerful genjutsu. "Damn it, she froze me. Damn it, why would they listen to me?" Naruto thought in an angry manner. "I'm sorry, Naruto. This is the only way I can ensure your safety. I don't want to see with hurt. Let's go, Ari." The pair of kitsune left the open courtyard, as they were ready to face the oncoming threat. Several minutes went by and Naruto's body was still paralyzed. Mia had already informed the staff of the ongoing pandemic. "Naruto-sama, I think it's time to bring you back your room," she said calmly as she reached out to grab Naruto, only to quickly pull her hand back as she noticed a pale silver-ish white aura began to feel away at the mist Ari had put on him. "Naruto-sama? I will not allow them to throw their lives away." Naruto roared as his aura exploded from his body. The force of his power knocked Mia over. "Mia-chan, I'm afraid I must save those two Baka no Kitsune before they get themselves killed," Naruto said as he began to walk away. "Then perhaps you should take us with you?" An elegant voice called out from behind Naruto as he turned around. "Who are you?" Naruto asked. "I am Tamamo, Yasaka's haha you. And I am Amaterasu, the Shinto sun goddess leader of the Shinto faction, and Yasaka's baba you." Naruto's eyes widened at hearing before they narrowed dangerously. "If you truly are her family, and why the hell did you leave her here alone?" Naruto roared as he released more and more power, causing poor Mia to shiver in fear. His aura is at least 10 times stronger than Yasaka-sama's, if not more, she thought to herself as her body refused to stop shaking. Tamamo narrowed her eyes at Naruto. "You better hold your tongue, boy, or..." She never finished her sentence as Naruto's hand locked around her neck, lifting her off the ground. "Or you'll what? Scorch me." Newsflash, I've been scorched by flames that have rivaled the sun in temperature. And I'm just fine, so you better answer me why you left her alone, or I'm going to break you like a stick. Naruto growled as Amaterasu narrowed her eyes. "Put my Masumi down this instant," she yelled, preparing orb of black flames. Naruto turned his sights towards her as his eyes unconsciously changed for a split second. His sclerae and irides were cerulean blue, with a ripple pattern spreading over the eyeball and nine tomo. But for that split second, Amaterasu felt as if she was nothing more than a godeling trying to fight both heavenly dragons in their prime. Naruto released Tamamo as she dropped to the ground as she began to gasp for air. Amaterasu quickly decided to explain everything to Naruto, as they were completely unaware of this war. And they never intentionally meant to harm Yasaka, and anyway. Naruto wasn't happy with the answer, but he accepted it for the moment. If you truly decided to kill Tamamo or Amaterasu, it would get him nothing. Shortly after that, Naruto locked in on Yasaka's position, as he gestured for Tamamo and Amaterasu to follow him. Upon arriving, they saw Kuyo standing in front of Yasaka. "Finally, I can exact my revenge for the humility you put me through. After I kill you, I'll take the position of leader and I'll find that whore you call a mother and enjoy raping her." Naruto immediately went to jump forward but was restrained by Tamamo's tails, as Amaterasu gripped his shoulder tightly. "What are you doing?" Naruto growled. "I have a feeling he's going to reveal something that we can use against him later," Amaterasu said, obviously not thrilled about restraining Naruto, as she would like nothing more than to see the Juubi murder the traitorous Yoko in cold blood. "Here's a little secret before I send you to hell. I'm the one who killed your father and framed it on the devils. You wretched swine, I'll get you for this, mark my words." Tamamo gasped in horror as her tails instantly loosened and released Naruto. Amaterasu began to comfort her daughter before she gestured for Naruto to move. Which Naruto didn't even hesitate as he disappeared in a blur and repelled Kuyo away from Yasaka. Flashback Kai. "So, you were watching the whole time?" Ari yelled angrily as Naruto narrowed his eyes at the ravenette. "No, I would have jumped in sooner if it wasn't for these two holding me back," Naruto said while snarling, clearly showing his anger at Ari's assumption. Tamamo gave a saddened expression. "I'm sorry, but we need to figure out why he betrayed us, and after hearing what he did to my husband," she said above a whisper before a ghostly blue fire spear flew through the air aimed at the mother and daughter duo. Kuyo had finally gained his bearings and was intending on impaling both Tamamo and Yasaka. Unfortunately, much to his and everyone else's surprise, spear never touched them. Naruto glared at the general. His eyes filled with rage. He gripped the spear of fire before crushing it. Naruto gritted his teeth as his brilliant white aura began to slowly leak out of his body. The ground was cracking apart as it began to tremble. Kuyo felt his entire body shivering. He couldn't feel Naruto's power anymore, but he could feel the pressure in the air. You just don't know when to quit, do you? Naruto glared at Kuyo. His Rinne Sharingan blazed to life. Everyone besides Amaterasu did not even notice Naruto's movements. He truly is powerful, fast enough to stop Kuyo's fire spear. I'm in your debt, Naruto. You're much faster than I am. I highly doubt I could have created a barrier in time to stop that fire sphere. Amaterasu thought herself. Kuyo felt a chill go down his spine. Those eyes. The Rinne Sharingan made him feel insignificant. And yet through all the fear he conjured up enough courage to yell. What kind of fucked up eyes are they? Kuyo demanded as Naruto smirked. The eyes of a primordial beast, Naruto said. So, his powers have finally come back? Yasaka whispered. Ari turned to her best friend, surrogate sister. So, are they like a sacred gear or something? Ari asked, genuinely curious, as Tamamo was equally curious. Amaterasu just wanted to know what these godly eyes were. He calls that as the Rinne Sharingan there at Kekai Mora Dojutsu. She really doesn't know what the eyes are fully capable of, other than the fact that he created a spatial vortex strong enough to teleport them here from a different dimension. Yasaka explained. He didn't originate from this world? Tamamo said as Amaterasu narrowed her eyes slightly. So, he's exactly like Chichigami then. A god from another world who doesn't belong to any religious or factions in this world. Amaterasu thought. Naruto-kun, I know I have no right to ask you, is that I have a request. Yasaka called out, hoping Naruto we heard her. What is it? I want you to eliminate him. Please do it for me and everyone else in Kyoto. Consider it done, Yasaka-sama. Naruto said. Yasaka frowned as she narrowed her eyes. Never call me that again. She yelled before pouting as Naruto chuckled before turning around and looking at her, causing the group minus Amaterasu to gasp at his eyes. Okay, I'll stick with calling you Yasaka-chan then, he said in a calm, friendly tone before turning around and glaring at Kuyo. Kuyo, cooking unconscious, stepped back before using his tails to form a large wheel of blue fire. Naruto's eyes narrowed for a small smirk appeared on his face. Ah, so that's how it works. I honestly thought magic or other abilities besides jutsu would be impossible for me to copy or master. Naruto thought as he brought his 10 tails together and forming a massive wheel of blue and black flames. Kuyo's eyes widened as Naruto's fire wheel completely destroyed his own. Kuyo jumped back as the fire wheel hit the ground, exploding. The blast radius of the immensely powerful fire attacks scorched Kuyo's arm. Gah! Kuyo's right arm was burned to the point where it was almost completely useless. With these eyes alone I can easily overpower almost anyone, but I can't rely on these eyes alone. If I do, I'll be no different than Sasuke and Madara. Naruto thought to himself. Ari heard a groan as she glanced down and noticed Yogara was beginning to wake up. Yo-kun, you're awake, she exclaimed cheerfully, although her cheerful demeanor changed as she saw her Yogara cough up a large amount of blood. Yogara, she exclaimed loudly, getting everyone's attention. He was still alive. Kuyo yelled in fury only to get knocked back by one of Naruto's tails. Naruto quickly made a sealless cage no bunshin. Go heal him, Naruto ordered as his clone nodded. If you make clones of himself. Everyone including Kuyo all said aloud, excluding Yogara was having a hard time breathing because his lungs were filling with blood. Naruto-chan, what he's going to do? Ari asked the clone, who answered. I'm going to try to kill him the best I can. Right now, he has a bunch of ruptured internal organs as well as bleeding internally. I know I can feel his organs and stop the bleeding, but any other injuries he has I will be healed at the moment. The clone said as Ari nodded as Naruto's right hand from the tips of his fingers up to his elbow turned brilliant white. Gently placing his hand on Yogara's chest, waves of white energy rippled throughout his, slowly and gently healing his body. Naruto-chan, is he going to be okay now? The clone glanced towards Ari before giving her a smile. He's going to be fine, although I suggest bed rest for him, and I would say probably few days should do him some good. And that means no trying to bed him while he's recovering. the clone said as Ari glared at him. Yogara glanced up at Naruto's clone as his eyes widened, noticing 10 tails behind him. Juubi? He said above a whisper before Ari gently placed his head on her lap. My job here is done. My original should be just about done with Kuyo. The clone said before dispelling in a cloud of smoke. Yasaka glanced at Yogara, who was no longer looking like he was on death's door but looked completely healed. Before glancing back at the real Naruto, who was literally using Kuyo as a punching bag, and she glanced at his eyes, they were back to their normal state. So, he stopped using his Rinne Sharingan? Well, I guess Kuyo wasn't strong enough to face Naruto with his dojutsu active. Yasaka thought. Naruto stood above the now beaten, bloody, and unconscious Kuyo, who is no longer a threat. Naruto reached down and grabbed him by the back of his kimono before throwing him over his shoulder. Naruto made his way over to the group. What he wanted to do with him? Naruto is speaking to Yasaka, who frowned before glancing at her Tamamo, who nodded. We're having thrown in jail, and we'll interrogate him later and find out why he betrayed us. Yasaka spoke in a leader-like tone. Naruto nodded before he heard Amaterasu cleared her throat again. Before any of that happens, I would like to know just what you are and how you got here, Naruto. Amaterasu asked in a polite tone. Naruto dropped Kuyo to the ground as he used him as a chair, which caused everyone to stare at him. Which Naruto ignored their staring. Well, I've already told you not to go a bit about my past. And I don't see any harm in telling any of you this, but you gotta promise me that you're not going to share this with anyone. Naruto said as everyone, not besides Yogara, who simply grunted in response. Okay, this is going to take a little while, so I hope you all comfortable, Naruto said as Amaterasu conjured up some seiza pillows for everyone to sit on, including Naruto, who took it over Kuyo's unconscious beaten body. Let's see, my tale starts 17 years ago, the night of my birth and also the death of my parents. Naruto began his tale. Unknown location. The room was pitch black. The only source of light was light coming from the monitor. The monitor displayed was giving life support readings. Laying in the bed next to the monitor was a young man with spiky black hair with a blue tint. He was deathly pale, and looked as if he was on death's door. This was Uchiha Sasuke. He was the one hooked up to life support, and he hadn't shown any signs of improvement in the last month and a half. This was Apophis, the legendary evil dragons, also known as the Eclipse Dragon and the Primal Eclipse Dragon. She had found Sasuke, who was barely giving any signs of life. It surprises her greatly that a human could survive in the dimensional gap with no protection. For some strange reason she had a strong desire to protect him. He was not a dragon tamer, nor did he give the feeling of dragon fruit. No, it was his vast amount of negative emotion that attracted her to him. I don't know why you didn't just kill him when you found him, Apophis. The Gaki hasn't given any signs of life in the past month and a half. Just pull the plug and eat him already. Apophis turned around and glared at the man behind her. The man wore a black coat with a mixture of black and blonde hairs, as well as heterochromatic eyes, where his right eye is gold and his left eye is black. What do you want, Crom Cruok? Apophis hissed at the strongest evil dragon. Crom Cruok narrowed his eyes slightly, causing the third strongest evil dragon to stutter. I'll forgive you this time, Apophis, but that's not why I'm here. Rizavam wants all of us to gather for some meeting about resurrecting the beast. Apophis rolled her eyes at the mention of the spawn of Lucifer and Lilith. Why are we even loyal to that weakling? Seriously, me, you, and Azi Dahaka are easily superior to him in power. And when compared to the other two super devils, he's nothing more than a hatchling in comparison. Apophis said calmly. Crom Cruok did not answer right away. I understand what you're saying. It's demeaning for us heavenly dragon class beings to side with a being who's barely on god class. But we must play nice with him for a little bit longer. After all, we don't know what he's completely planning to do. After all, he has a few screws loose. Crom explained nonchalantly. Apophis sighed before glancing at Sasuke one more time, before looking back at Crom Cruok. Let's get this over with. I have more important things to do than listening to that twit flapping his gums. Apophis grumbled in annoyance as Crom Cruok snickered a bit. What's he can come back here and steer your brain-dead boyfriend? Apophis' body began to emit short darkness as her eyes began to glow gold. Say that one more time, I dare you. She snarled as darkness escaped from her mouth. Crom felt the chill go down his back. Okay, I'm sorry. By the way, what exactly did you do to him? Apophis calmed down before she sighed. I gave him the body of an eclipse dragon much like myself. I healed most of his physical injuries but I couldn't heal any of his other injuries. So, it's a waiting game. God forbid he wakes up the moment I leave here, he's going to be extremely confused, and I don't want him doing anything that could hurt himself. Apophis explained before she glared at the crescent circle dragon in front of her. If you tell anyone about him, I don't care if you're stronger than me, I will kill you. Crom Cruach opened his mouth but then closed it. There is no point in arguing with her anymore. Let's just get this damn meeting over with. I am better things to do than listening to Rizavam whined and complained about life being too boring. Crom Cruach thought as he prepared the dragon gate to teleport himself and Apophis to Rizavam base of operation. It had been several days since Naruto not only crushed Kuyo, but told a watered-down version of his life in the elemental nations. He made sure not to include any sensitive or crucial information about himself or the elemental nations. He told Tamamo and Amaterasu along with everyone about the Akatsuki and especially the Fourth Great Shinobi War. And how he used his new Rinne Sharingan teleport himself Madara and Sasuke off the world to save the elemental nations. Pretty much everyone's reactions were different, although Amaterasu was extremely surprised by the story even though she didn't show it physically. Yasaka, who had heard a good amount of this before, but hearing all of it truly surprised her. Ari, being the big softie that she was, started crying yet again, while Yogara was honestly surprised about Naruto's story. Tamamo, much like her haha you, didn't give that much physical reaction, despite how surprised she was. After Naruto finished telling his story, Amaterasu and Tamamo dismissed them all and told them all to get some rest and that they would contact them in a few days. Naruto effortlessly carried both Yasaka and Yogara back to Kyoto while dragging Kuyo with one of his tails. Ari following close behind Naruto, as he dropped both Yogara and Yasaka off at the hospital before Mia began to chastise him like a little child. That was 2 days ago, and as of today Naruto stood in front of Amaterasu and Tamamo, who were both sporting serious expressions. Naruto-san, do you know why we called you here today? The haha you of Yasaka asked. Naruto simply shook his head. No, I do not, Tamamo-san. Naruto answered truthfully. Amaterasu picked up where her Masumi left off. We simply want to know where your loyalty lies with. We want to make sure you're not going to harm anything, especially Yasaka. Naruto gained a serious expression. I really haven't given it much thought, but I feel more at home here than anywhere else. Yasaka-chan has been a good friend to me, so has Ari-chan. So, I was thinking about asked her if I could join the Yukai faction if that were to be okay? Naruto then noticed that both the mother and daughter duo were smiling at him. That's exactly the answer we wanted to hear from you, Naruto-san. Tamamo said with a smile, and looking at possibly her future son-in-law. Amaterasu smiled turned into a frown. There's still something that's been bugging me though? Tamamo said as she glanced at her mother. What is it, haha you? You said that this Madara and Sasuke were most likely teleported into this world along with you? Amaterasu said as Naruto's eyes widened as he understood what she was asking. I haven't sensed them since I arrived here, but if I was in such horrible shape when I got here, it's safe to assume that either they are both dead or they have been crippled to the point where they couldn't even harm a fly. Naruto said as he began to think. Madara has a higher chance of surviving due to the Juubi? But even with it he would be weak to the point where possibly Kurama and the others could have escaped from his body. But the Gedo Mazo has an extremely powerful life force, and if it remains inside Madara's body it could hypothetically grant him at least 1,000 years worth of life. Naruto thought to himself. Fear not, Tamamo-san, Amaterasu-san, if either one of them resurfaces I will deal with them personally. I'm just hoping that they are dead, that way they don't harm anyone. Naruto said, still not used to speaking to people in such a respectful manner. Amaterasu and Tamamo both nodded accepting his answer. Thank you, Naruto, we appreciate you for answering our questions. You are dismissed, Amaterasu said respectfully with a smile. Tamamo gained a smile as well. And be sure to take care of my Masumi for me, as I'm not around that much. And she seems to be very fond of you, and just make sure not to make me a ba-chan too soon, okay tilde. She said now cheerful tone, which caused Naruto to choke and Amaterasu to giggle into her hand. Naruto quickly composed himself before bowing as he left, with blush clearly visible on his cheeks. He's going to be a blasted tease. The mother and daughter duo thought together in unison, despite their rocky beginning. Amaterasu and Tamamo were beginning to like Naruto more and he was the perfect mate for Yasaka. In Apophis' lair, Apophis was using her advanced memory and healing magic to try to piece together what kind of person Sasuke was. And that was going great, right? Wrong. The problem was Sasuke had no memories. It appears during his time in the dimensional gap the gap not only destroyed 72% of his body but almost completely obliterated his mind. His brain was still fully functional, it's just he had no memories of where he came from, who he was, or if he had family at all. Apophis gave an exhausted huff as she pulled back from Sasuke, before looking at him with a somewhat sad expression. Just what happened to you? You were nothing more than a mangled torso and a head. It's truly amazing that you survived all of that. Let's just hope you wake up soon, that way I can finally get some sleep and I can finally kick out this lazy bum. Apophis thought as she glared at Crom Cruok, who was going through Sasuke's ninja pouch. Will you please not go through his thing? Crom Cruok glanced up at Primal Eclipse Dragon, before looking back down at the two things he had acquired from Sasuke's ninja pouch. A wallet and a bingo book. I think I found something that will give us a little more information on your boyfriend over there. This seems to be his identification, and it seems he's wanted wherever he originated from. The crescent circle dragon spoke aloud as Apophis slithered over towards Crom. Quickly taking both the photo ID and bingo book from Crom Cruok, she began scanning the ID. Sasuke Yu Uchiha. She tested out his name before she glanced before reading the contents of the bingo book. XXXXXXX bingo book entry XXXXXXX. Sasuke Uchiha. Birth date, July 23. Gender, male. Age 17. Height 168 centimeters. Weight 52.2 kilograms. Blood type, AB. Kekkei Genkei, Sharingan and Mangekyo Sharingan. Classification, missing nin. Occupation, head of the Uchiha clan, former. Affiliation, Konohagakure, Otogakure, and Akatsuki. Team, Team 7. Clan, Uchiha clan. Rank, Genin. Ninja registration 012606. Academy graduation age 12. Family, Fugaku Uchiha. Father, Makoto Uchiha. Mother, Itachi Uchiha. Brother. Nature affiliations, lightning release, fire release, and yin release. Bounties. Konohagakure wanted live 10 million Ryo reward. Sanagakure wanted dead or alive 1,600,000 Ryo reward. Kirigakure wanted dead or alive 2,800,000 Ryo reward. Kumogakure wanted alive 25 million Ryo reward. Iwagakure wanted dead or alive 1,800,000 Ryo reward. Crom whistled at the impressive bounties Sasuke had amassed. It seems like he was quite the troublemaker. He will make a worthy sparring partner whenever he wakes up. Crom spoke with a grin before he noticed a frown on Apophis' face. What's wrong? His mind was almost completely obliterated in the dimensional gap. I highly doubt you remember any of this. It's best we don't tell him. Crom Cruok cut Apophis off. And why should we not tell him? He should be proud of these accomplishments. You're starting to get soft, Apophis. If you keep this up you won't be labeled an evil dragon anymore but a normal dragon. Is that really what you want? Apophis glared daggers at Crom, who didn't even flinch. I don't know what happened to him, but we can't reveal a list with him right away. Revealing that much information about his past may cause his mind to break, and we don't know how he'll act when he wakes up. Apophis spoke in a ghostly calm tone. Crom Cruok crossed his arms underneath his chest before releasing a small growl, as he watched one of the two female evil dragons begin to enter Sasuke's mind and psyche once again. She's never cared this much about anyone before? Hell, even her own hatchlings never received this much attention. But then again, that was back in ancient Egypt when she was the strongest evil dragon and I was the third strongest. Crom Cruok thought to himself as he smiled a bit. Sasuke's mind, psyche, an empty void bleached completely white, void of any form of life. There were no memories, no thought, or desires. Just emptiness, which was the state of Sasuke's mind. Sitting in the middle of this white void was a small boy, with spiky black hair which resembled a duck butt. His eyes were as black as darkness itself, his skin was pale, and he was completely naked. Who am I? Where am I? What is my meaning in life? A young boy asked aloud, hoping for a response, yet nothing came, only the loneliness of his shattered mind. The boy put his head down. He was tired of being alone, and he was unaware that he would make a lifelong friend. Apophis grumbled in annoyance as she traveled through the infinite white void which was Sasuke's mind, looking for any sign that he may still be mentally alive. This is getting tiresome. If I don't find something soon, I'm going to have to. She thought before she noticed something, a small shape the distance. What is that? Or whatever it is, maybe it can give me a sign or something that could possibly help Sasuke-chan. She thought before slithering much faster towards the small shape. Apophis got closer to the small shape, as her eyes widened in surprise as she saw a smaller, younger version of Sasuke sitting there all alone. She slowly began to make her way close to the boy as she began to reach out, upon touching Sasuke's shoulder. Sasuke slowly turned towards her. His eyes were almost lifeless, his skin was pale, almost white. Who are you? I'm Apophis, and I'm a friend, and I want to help you, Sasuke-chan. She asked in a friendly tone before Sasuke tilted his head to the side. Sasuke? Who is Sasuke? Apophis' eyes widened before they softened. That's your name, and I want to help you. Do you know what happened here? She asked, hoping to maybe get down to why his mind was in such a horrible shape. Sasuke answered emotionlessly. I don't know, I can't remember anything. I've been here for so long. Sasuke replied as Apophis resist the urge to face palm. So, he is basically a copy of Apophis now? Well, it's better than nothing. All I have to do is get him to wake up. She thought to herself. Apophis shook her head as her black hair with red highlights swayed back and forth. Sasuke-chan, I want you to try to wake up. There is only so much I can do in here. But on the outside, there is a lot of things I could do to help you and hopefully return some of your memories if any still exist. She said softly as Sasuke simply nodded. Almost instantly Apophis felt her own consciousness being pushed out of Sasuke as his body began to melt into the heavenly white void. That was surprisingly easy? She said before her conscience was completely forced out of Sasuke's mind. Real world. Apophis' eyes snapped open as she pulled her hands away from Sasuke's temples, as she glanced over at her fellow evil dragon before she gave a deadpan expression. Crom Cruok was slumped over the chair he was in. He had fallen asleep, obviously shaking her head. She focused her sights back on Sasuke, gave a small groan before opening his eyes. Apophis smiled. Sasuke had finally woken up, and now she decided to help him possibly get his memories back or make new ones to replace the old ones. Apophis, he announced in a much deeper tone than the one within his shattered mind. Apophis nodded. I'm still here, I won't leave you alone, Sasuke-chan. She said in a warm, friendly tone. First thing I need to do is teach him emotions, and possibly get him out of his bed with a little physical therapy or exercise. She thought as she began to formulate a schedule for Sasuke. Crom Cruok groaned as he opened his eyes. So, he's finally awake, huh? The strongest evil dragon said while looking in the direction of Sasuke. Apophis glanced over at the lazy dragon in human form. Yes, he is, and you're going to help me rehabilitate him. Apophis said with the evil shit-eating grin on her face while Crom's eyes widened with fear. Who is he? Sasuke asked his emotionless tone, and before Apophis could answer, Crom Cruok beat her to it. Is there something wrong with him? Because he sounds like a clone of Apophis? The dark dragon of the crescent moon said in an uncaring tone. Apophis growled at her fellow evil dragon as an orb of black water formed in her hand. Crom Cruok's eyes widened as he jumped up. Don't you dare say that again, do you understand me? If you say that one more time I will dissolve you into nothingness. She yelled as Crom Cruok nodded furiously, not wanting to be dissolved. Sasuke looked confused as he stared at the duo. Is there something wrong with me? Sasuke asked with a small amount of curiosity in his voice as he pointed a finger towards himself. Apophis sighed before glancing at the former human. No, there isn't. You were just injured, and me and Crom Cruok, she said while gesturing towards the man with black and blonde hair standing next to her, are going to help you recover to the best of our abilities. She said in a friendly tone while Sasuke simply nodded. Crom Cruok scowled at his fellow evil dragon. Great. Just fucking great, now I have to help rehabilitate this Gaki. The strongest evil dragon cursed and thought. It's times like this where I wish where Lu would have killed me along with that idiot Balor. Crom flinched under the glare Apophis sent his way. Yup, he was totally fucked 7 ways to Sunday. Unknown location. A world filled with darkness, giving off the feeling of sickness, death, and dread. The sounds of pain-filled screams and shrieks of various creatures echoed throughout the darkness. Corpses littered the way towards a large Japanese-style castle mansion. A barrier separated the creatures on the darkness from the mansion, as they could detect a living creature from within and then wanted it. A fair-skinned man with waist-length spiky, black hair that had a slight blue tint to it, wearing nothing more than a pair of baggy pants. This man was Uchiha Madara. The ghost of the Uchiha laid motionless on a futon. However, unlike his counterpart Sasuke, Madara was fully conscious and still possessed all his memories. Opening his eyes, slowly revealing his onyx eyes, glancing to the side of the room, where that accursed woman now stood. Releasing a low growl, Madara finally spoke. "HN, what do you want?" The woman within the darkness released a giggle. Ma Madara-chan tilde. There's no need to get so upset, I just want to come here to see my soon-to-be loyal servant. Madara's eye twitched violently. Madara sat up and glared at the woman. "If you think I am going to bend over for you, you've got another thing coming." He growled as his eyes shifted from onyx to red. "No need to stare at me with such frightening eyes, Madara-chan tilde. You said you wanted world domination, so why don't we work together? I've been trapped down here in Yomi no Kuni, world of darkness, for a few millennia. I'm going to follow up my threat to that traitorous bastard Izanagi." The woman spat out. Madara narrowed his eyes. "I do not want world domination, I want world peace." Madara hissed, correcting her. The woman steps out of the shadows. She was beautiful, deathly white skin, long silky black hair, with violet-red eyes. She was wearing a black kimono with a pink floral design sewed into the fabric. She had a rather busty figure, hourglass-shaped waist, and wide hips. She was the ideal woman for anyone. Madara wouldn't admit it aloud, but this woman was as beautiful. "You don't want world domination? Isn't that what you were trying to accomplish in your home world, Madara-chan? And yet you were defeated by a boy no older than 17? She spoke in a sarcastic, mocking tone. Madara's nose crinkled as he snarled at the mention of Naruto, the very boy who ruined everything he had worked so hard for. "Izanami no Makoto, don't you even mention that Gaki. I will find him and I will kill him." Raising a delicate eyebrow, the newly named Izanami replied to Madara's latest comment. "Without the 9 Biju within you, you wouldn't last a ghostly chance against him, and you know it. So, who are you trying to convince, me or yourself?" Madara glared at the Shinigami queen and death goddess before him with anger in his eyes. "You know nothing of me. You could never understand me, and I don't want to understand you either." Madara replied rather harshly, causing the Shinto goddess of creation and death to glare murderously at the ghost of the Uchiha. A thick, potent blackish-purple aura began to escape from her very being. Madara felt the chill go down his spine, although he did not show his fear. "Why must you be so stubborn? I saved you from the dimensional gap, I healed your wounds, and I prevent all the creatures and tortured souls of Yomi no Kuni from attacking you in your weakened state. All I asked from you was to join me, and help me destroy the world that Izanagi cared so much for." She just needed a way to get through to Madara, to connect with him, and most importantly to get him to side with her. Most men would willingly throw themselves to Izanami. Even after all the injuries she sustained before dying, she was still able to regain her former beauty. Unfortunately, Madara was a person who was not attracted to beauty but power, and due to his pride, he could not simply roll over and surrender himself to someone even if they save him. Madara would never simply give up. "You simply won't give up, will you? I have no interest in joining you for helping you in any shape, way or form," Madara growled. Izanami gritted her teeth in anger but soon smirked. Grabbing the opening of her kimono, she slowly pulled it back, revealing her gravity-defying breasts. "Are you sure you wouldn't want to play with me a little bit, Tilda?" she asked in a cute tone, thinking she might have found his weakness. Unfortunately for her, this was something Madara absolutely despised: women who would throw their bodies around simply to get something they wanted. Madara growled as a dark blue aura surrounded his body at the skeleton-like structure formed around his body. Izanami, who is dangerously close to being a member of the top 10 strongest beings in the world, felt a chill go down her spine. She knew trying to get Madara to side with her was a dangerous gamble, as the man was rather unpredictable and was immensely powerful and dangerously close to matching Brahma, the Hindu god of creation and 5th strongest being in the world. Honestly terrified her. Izanami sighed in defeat. She wasn't strong enough to control Madara, his will was simply too strong. And the hatred he held within him dwarfed her own hatred as she turned around and began to walk out of the room. Glancing out of the corner of her eye, she saw Madara standing there with his back to her. Gritting her teeth, she soon gave a smirk. "No matter how long it takes, you will be mine, Madara-chan tilde." She thought herself as she left the room. Madara sat back down in his futon as he huffed in frustration. Damn that woman. She doesn't stop, she's even more stubborn than Hashirama. I didn't think something like that would be possible. But it's not like I can really leave either, she's blocked off this room from the outside, then again I haven't tried using my perfect Susanoo or Rinnegan to break out. Madara thought as he glanced around the room. The room was a room that he fondly remembered from his time before discovering Infinite Tsukuyomi. It was a classic Japanese-style room, with a sliding door, futon, and many other trinkets that he remembered. Quickly shake his head. First things first, I need to find a way to get out of here, then I need to find those filthy beasts. Once I seal them within my body, I will regain the power of the Rikudo, and I'll find Naruto and crush him once and for all. Madara thought as he lay back down in his futon. Completely unaware of what Izanami was planning for him, and if her plan succeeded, Madara would never leave her side. With Sasuke, 5 weeks later. It had been 5 weeks since Sasuke had finally regained consciousness and had shown no signs of being able to remember anything. It was surprisingly easy for Apophis to teach Sasuke emotions, and he picked up on everything extremely fast. And it wasn't long before he started walking again, along with running in various other types of exercises. But what really surprised her and Crom Cruok was that he had a separate power source that seemed to merge with his new draconic aura. And for some strange reason, Sasuke had a strange urge to call it chakra. Apophis hypothesized that Sasuke's body or what was left of it could possibly still remember the movements of his fighting styles through muscle memory. Crom Cruok even agreed with this, as he was eager to start training and sparring with Sasuke. This was 3.5 weeks ago, and Apophis seemed to agree with this. A world of darkness created from Apophis' dark field barrier to allow herself and Crom Cruok to train Sasuke uninterrupted. 3 figures stood within this dark world. Sasuke and Crom Cruok stood across from each other, as Apophis acted as the referee. Hajime, the female evil dragon, yelled as she jumped back. Sasuke's onyx eyes stared directly into heterochromatic eyes. The two charged each other. Crom was immediately on the offenses as he began attacking Sasuke relentlessly despite how much he was holding back. Sasuke for his part was weaving in and out of the strongest evil dragon's physical assault. Apophis was studied Sasuke's movements. He's continuing to get faster and stronger every time he spars with Crom Cruok. And he has a masterful control over his draconic chakra, as he calls it. Which reminds me, I should start teaching him more advanced draconic magic and abilities. Apophis though, as she continued to watch Sasuke and Crom continue their sparring match. Sasuke avoided a savage right hook from Crom Cruok, whose face demolished the ground. Sasuke extended his hand as a mass of darkness and shadow formed around his open palm. "Take this," Sasuke yelled as he released dozens of shadow streams at Crom, who sneered at the attack. The dark dragon of the crescent moon body was engulfed by a black and gold aura, before extending her hand at Sasuke. "I thought I told you only hand-to-hand combat. I will not allow such disgrace during my training. For that, I shall give you a glimpse of my true power." With a wave of his hand, Crom the erased all existence of the shadow streams Sasuke launched at him. Crom Cruok is strong, but I know there's got to be a way to defeat him? Sasuke thought before he decided to ask a question. "Oi," Sasuke said as Crom Cruok continued to stare at his and Apophis apprentice. "What is it? Why are you so against me using anything other than the hand-to-hand combat?" Sasuke asked as Crom narrowed his eyes. A true fighter fights with her fists, not with magic and parlor tricks. Plus, I have very little use for magic, other than teleportation and telepathy. I have very little use for it. Crom Cruok said as the ground beneath him began to tremble as he increased his aura. Sasuke's body tenses up, as the crescent circle dragon's aura was beginning to crush him. "This is heavenly dragon class power, Sasuke, but this is my full power. At my full power, I rivals if not surpass that of the 2 heavenly dragons in their prime." Crom Cruok speaks calmly. Sasuke narrows his eyes. That means you are in the top 10 strongest beings? Crom Cruok simply shrugged his shoulders while looking at Apophis. Myself along with Apophis, and that psychotic bastard Azidahaka can all be ranked up in the top 10. But at least myself and most likely Apophis don't need the extra attention on us. I can't see the same for Azidahaka, as even I don't know what's going on in that crazy three-headed bastard's mind. Sasuke dropped back down into a fighting stance as Crom Cruok dropped his as he turned around and began to walk away. This sparring session is over. I've lost all interest in fighting with you today. But tomorrow will be much more brutal for you, and I'll see how you fare against half of my power. Crom said darkly before leaving the dark field barrier. Sasuke stood there, his dumbfounded look on his face. I didn't think you get that upset if I used a draconic ability? Sasuke thought aloud, as Apophis' silky voice came from behind him. He's just stubborn and more upset that he really can't use magic that well. While he may have more power than myself, I excel in all fields while he excels only hand-to-hand combat. Apophis said softly. What do you mean? Sasuke asked confused. Crom Cruok was amazing when it came to fighting. Apophis sighed. Crom Cruok is far more intelligent than the other evil dragons excluding me and Azidahaka. But you can also refer to them as a meathead as well, despite how can't you ask is really the biggest battle maniac you've ever met. He's an excellent strategist on the battlefield, but outside of the battlefield is kind of dumb. Apophis said with a small smirk, remembering the time Crom Cruok came back crying his eyes out because he failed his written exam to get his driver's license. Sasuke nodded. Don't feel too bad, things like this happen from time to time. It's the reason why he hates most of the other evil dragons so much. They rely more on their draconic abilities than actual brute strength in hand-to-hand combat like him. Apophis said before she got into a battle stance. I believe it's time we start your advanced training in magic and draconic abilities. She said as Sasuke crouched down as well as he nodded. Without warning, the two clashed, using a mixture of hand-to-hand combat while launching off spells at one another. This was the daily routine Sasuke went through every day, and he hoped sometime in the near future he would regain his memories. 5 weeks earlier, Kyoto. It had been a few hours since Naruto had his meeting with Tamamo and Amaterasu. And Naruto found Yasaka, Ari, and Mia all in the recovering Yogara's room. Gently knocking on the door, the three vixens along with the lone male Kyuubi turned around and noticed the white-haired Juubi standing there. I hope I'm not intruding on anything, Naruto said sheepishly as Yasaka smiled at him. No, not at all, Naruto-kun. Yasaka replied to the very man who not only saved her but most likely all of Kyoto. How did your meeting with Haha you and Baba you go? It went rather well, which reminds me I want to ask you something. Yasaka raised an eyebrow at this, hoping that Naruto wasn't going to ask if he could leave. Gesturing for him to continue, Naruto then spoke. Yasaka-chan, would it be all right if I joined the Ukai faction? Naruto said while nervously scratching his cheek. The room was completely quiet, while Yogara simply stared at Naruto. He's different from most yokai. He's not interested in power or wealth just like Yasaka and Ari. And he's not a full-blooded yokai just like them. After all, I'm the first natural Kyuubi in over 400 years. Yogara thought to himself. Ari had a look of pure surprise on her face. Naruto-chan? Did he seriously just ask if he could join our faction? I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's a good thing because with him our faction will be more powerful. But it's also a bad thing as he could attract more powerful enemies. Ari thought with a serious expression on her face. Don't get her wrong, she loved Naruto in a brother and sister way, as her heart and soul belonged to Yogara despite how many times she flirted with him. Mia had developed a small crush on Naruto over his stay in the hospital, and she was overjoyed to hear him say this. But she knew Naruto had his for Yasaka. You know, it saddened her great she would accept it. Do you mean that? Yasaka asked softly. Naruto raised an eyebrow before nodding. Of course, I do. I feel more at home here than I did my own home world. Naruto said as it kind of hurt to say something like that, but it was true. Yasaka-chan, are you Auri? Ufu. Naruto grunted as performed a tackle hugged, nearly knocking Naruto over. Of course, you can join, she said as she hugged him tightly, not wanting to let go of him. Naruto gently rubbed her back as he hugged her, while resting his chin on the top of her head. So, this is what love feels like. I probably would have never gotten this back in the elemental nations. Naruto thought as he saw everyone smiling at him. He even caught a glimpse of Yogara smirking. After everything was said and done, Ari pulled out a deck of cards. Unbeknownst to all of them, Naruto had more luck than the devil himself. Yogara was the only one who didn't play as he had no money, and Naruto swiped Kuyo while dragging him to the prison beneath the Imperial Palace. Yasaka, Ari, and Mia soon regretted playing game card Naruto. "You have to be cheating, Naruto-chan," Ari cried out, handing the white-haired Juubi more of her money. Naruto graciously took the money from the parting woman before smirking. "Now Ari-chan, no one likes a sore loser," Naruto said with a smirk. He didn't normally play cards or do any type of gambling, but when he did he always won. Yasaka huffed as she also agreed with Ari. Naruto had only lost once. Just once, and she was certain he lost on purpose as he felt guilty for making Mia. Which this is true, Naruto was a sucker for women were crying. "All right Naruto, tell us, how are you cheating?" the blonde Kyuubi demanded as she was also losing money. Naruto pouted childishly at Yasaka's accusation. "Yasaka-chan, that really hurt. I've never achieved anything in my life, I'm just extremely lucky," Naruto whined comically. Mia pouted cutely, not happy due to her large losing streak. She was extremely competitive for such a sweet girl, even going as far to cry just so Naruto would let her win once. Yogara for his part simply watched the one-sided card game and was glad he didn't participate. He did tell Naruto wasn't cheating at all, but he still found it strange that Naruto was capable of winning so much. When does he have the luck of the devil on his side? The red-headed Kyuubi thought to himself. A few seconds later, two yokai guards rushed into the room with distressed looks on their faces. "Yasaka-sama, we bring grave news." Judging by their tone, whatever this was, it must be serious. Narrowing her eyes, Yasaka spoke. "Are the rebels attacking again?" She spoke in the emotionless tone as the two guards shook their heads. "No, it's much worse." The other guard spoke as calmly as he possibly could. Ari then spoke up, narrowing her amber eyes. "Are we being attacked by another faction?" The guards shook their heads again as everyone sighed in relief. The Sekiryute and Hakuryuko are fighting with one another as well as causing many casualties amongst the humans and yokai, both half-breeds and full-breeds. The first guard said, causing everyone to freeze besides Naruto, who was still learning about this world. "Take us there now," Yasaka ordered as the two guards nodded. "Wait, I can come as well." Yogara tried to get out of bed but couldn't. "No, you're still in no shape to be fighting," Naruto said while placing a hand on the redhead's shoulder. "I'll go," Naruto said while Yasaka and Ari both nodded, knowing Naruto is strong enough to take care of himself. Mia would have protested, but after seeing Kuyo's broken body she had no doubts Naruto would be fine. The yokai's guards led Yasaka, Ari, and Naruto out of the hospital and through the city, which surprisingly was still intact. But the further they went to the edge of the city, the more destruction and pandemonium they saw. Naruto growled as he made several sealless cage bunshin to aid the injured before he turned his attention to Yasaka and Ari. "Is there anything you tell me about these heavenly dragons?" Naruto asked. Without turning her head, Yasaka answered immediately. "The two heavenly dragons are two of the most powerful dragons to ever exist. They are only exceeded by Ophis, the dragon god of infinity, and Great Red, the dragon of the apocalypse. Diedrig is Sekiryute, Red Dragon Emperor. He has the power to double his strength and transfer that power into other beings or objects. While Albion, the Hakuryuto, White Dragon Emperor, he has the power to halve his opponent's power and add it to his own. In the past, the two heavenly dragons fought a fierce battle, which was interrupted by the angels, devils, and fallen angels who were at war during the time. In anger, both dragons attacked the leaders of the three factions, which caused the leaders of the three factions to call a temporary truce until the heavenly dragons were dealt with, which led to their bodies being destroyed and their souls being sealed into two separate sacred gears. Which both of the heavenly dragons are sealed within two separate sacred gears, Boosted Gear and Divine Dividing. Yasaka explained as Naruto frowned. "I take it they're strong even while being sealed in sacred gears?" Naruto said while observing the destruction caused by these two sacred gear wielders. The injured went from children to the elderly, both the human and yokai alike. Buildings were destroyed, fire flickered and danced around and on the rubble. Ari nodded. Yes, they are indeed powerful, even the sealed state. Although they are no way near close to how powerful they were in their prime. But they still had the power to slay Satan in God class being when the full power of the heavenly dragons unleashed through the Juggernaut drive. The Ravenet explained. So, I take it Albion's sacred gear divine dividing works better for one-on-one fights. While Diedrig's sacred gear boosted gear works better in a group. Naruto thought to himself, as either one of these sacred gear wielders would be troublesome to take on alone. But for them would be a problem. And if they use these Juggernaut drives, all no choice but to use my Rinne Sharingan against the two of them. And since my Rikudo Senjutsu still hasn't returned, and I can't access my Biju form until more of my power returns. Naruto thought as something caught his eye. Completely stopping in his tracks, Yasaka, Ari, and the two guards stopped as well as they saw Naruto staring down a alleyway. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto could have sworn he saw something, or someone run down this alleyway. There is no mistaking that long spiky white hair tied in a ponytail, that hideous dark green kimono, and that red haori with two yellow circles on each side. It's gotta be Jiraiya sensei? But how did he get here? No better question is how do you get this dimension? And why is he here in Kyoto? Naruto thought. Naruto's head snapped out of his train of thought as he looked at Yasaka, who had a concerned expression on her face. Are you alright? Naruto looked back down the alleyway before signing. I thought I saw something or someone who came from my world. But right now, we have a much bigger problem, the need to take care of those two heavenly dragons now. Before they destroy the city. Naruto said in a serious tone of voice. The group eventually came to what used to be a beautiful park, filled with various shrines, sakura blossom trees, benches, and small food shops. There standing in the center of this destruction was two humanoid figures donning draconic armor. One of the two figures was wearing red dragon armor with green jewels that covers her body, with a pair of rocket thrusters at the back, and a pair of dragon wings. While the other figure was wearing white dragon armor with blue jewels that covers the body, with a pair of white dragon wings on her back, with 8 energy feathers. Sekiryute-sama, Hikuryuko-sama, Yasaka called out in a respectful manner, which caused two draconic fighters to stop as they turned around and looked at Yasaka, Ari, and Naruto. Would you please not fight within Kyoto's boundaries? Yasaka said, hoping to end this petty squabble without violence. The Sekiryute turned and looked at his counterpart the Hikuryuko, who did the same, before the duo broke out in a burst of laughter. I might be inclined to listen to you if you were to surrender your body to me, Tilda. The Sekiryute spoke in a sadistic, perverted tone. As both you and the Ravenet over there both have bodies that are rather pleasant, Tilda. And you would indeed be able to give strong offspring, Tilda. Sekiryute continued to speak as his words were laced with lust and maleficent intent. The Hikuryuko glared at his rival. They would never stoop so low as to bear a child of the Sekiryute, they would rather bear my own offspring over yours. The Hikuryuko sneered. The Sekiryute growled before putting his head against his rival's, causing sparks to fly as their helmets smashed against one another. These bitches are mine. Yasaka and Ari breaths hitched at being called bitches. As they both scowled, Naruto clenched his fist tightly. We're vixens. Yasaka and Ari both yelled out in anger, causing the two dragon emperors to turn towards them. Nobody fucking care, bitch. The Hikuryuko yelled. And before anyone could even reply, the Hikuryute was hit in the chest by a bolt of black and white lightning, sending him flying. Ah! Naruto stood there with his hand extended as smoke was emitting from his palm. Sekiryute glared at Naruto. How dare you attack my rival? That honor is only for me. He yelled as he rushed towards Naruto with his wings extended. Naruto raised both hands, his right hand covered in black, blue, and white flames and his left in black and white lightning, and slammed them together. Immediately, a massive shockwave of both fire and lightning surged through the battlefield. The Sekiryute crossed his arms in front of him, using his wings as a shield as the fire and lightning scorched his armor. That hurt. That really did hurt. Naruto ignored the cries of pain coming from the man in red draconic armor. Boost, 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 boost. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he heard the announcement coming from the left gauntlet, as he felt the Sekiryute rapidly increase. Roar of the Sekiryute inhaled deeply before leaning forward and yelling out. Malefic Red Dragon. A powerful stream of red flames exploded from the masked dragon emperor. Naruto quickly released a torrent of water from his mouth, which collided with the stream of red flames. This resulted in a large wall of steam which filled the battlefield, making it hard for Yasaka and Ari to see Naruto. Within this, the man in red draconic armor could barely see several feet in front of him. Solely relying on his other four senses, he barely had time to raise his arms before an insanely powerful fist slammed into him. Gah! He cried out as he was sent flying back. The force of the punch also flew away the steam. Yasaka and Ari were both relieved to see Naruto was completely unharmed, as their attention went back to the Securite who caught himself in mid-airs. Now that was a powerful punch. Yes, a battle like this always makes my blood boil. He yelled hysterically as he flew at Naruto. Naruto crossed his arms before quickly pulling them apart, unleashing a powerful wave of wind. This powerful blast of wind knocked away for Securite, but as noise caught Naruto's attention as he saw the Hakuryuko finally getting up. These two just don't give up, Naruto thought to himself. That hurt, asshole. The Hakuryuko yelled out angrily at Naruto. Hero, you need to calm yourself. Attack this man mindlessly will only get you killed. The calm, cool, collected voice at Albion admitted from the light wings on Hiro's back. Yes, I agree with Albion and this one, Kuro. Attacking this man would be very foolish, he's stronger than he lets on. Diedrich spoke from Kuro left gauntlet. Come on Diedrich, he can't be that strong to take on both of us? Kuro replied to Diedrich in a laid-back manner, unlike his counterpart Hiro who is considering Albion's warning. Kuro, what do you want? Albion and Diedrich are both right, Kuro. We can't just attack this person blindly like we do each other. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I can tell he's holding back a lot of power. Hiro said calmly, which Kuro shrugged off. Stop your bellyaching, he's not that strong and we can take him down together in one sees dead we get them. Kuro said while pointing at Yasaka and Ari. Both scowled. I would appreciate it if you didn't refer to my friends as if they were nothing more than items. Naruto growled before rushing forward and cold-cocked him the Kuro across the face, sending him flying. They are living beings and need to be treated with respect. Naruto yelled, which caused the two Kyuubi blush slightly. Hiro spreading wings apart as he placed his hands together, forming a circle shape with his hands. Half dimensions. Naruto instantly felt space around him distorting. It soon felt like his body was being forcefully shrunken. Naruto quickly activating his Rinne Sharingan as he glared at Hiro. Naruto's left eye began to glow a ghostly blue. Eminata Kotachi, heaven, Naruto thought as he casted something upon the Hakuryuko. Quickly channeling Rikudo no Chikara to his right eye. Takami Musubi, Kukanten. Hajiku, High Creator, Space Release. Flip, Naruto declared as the half dimensions was no longer affecting Naruto but Hiro himself. What? Hiro yelled hysterically as he quickly cancelled out his technique. What the hell did he just do? Hiro yelled in thought as Albion quickly answered. It appears he has an ability that allows him to manipulate space, so he flipped the technique back onto you. That's what his technique-based means, flip. Albion replied dryly as Hiro twitched in annoyance. Fist of the Malefic Red Dragon. Naruto turned just in time to see Kuro armored fist cloaked in red flames. Naruto's right eye pulsed with power again. Takami Musubi, Kukanten. Kujiku, High Creator, Space Release. Crush. Almost instantly Kuro felt an immense amount of pressure come crashing down on him, forcing him onto the ground, unable to move. Majestic White Dragon Wing Attack. Naruto turned around as he saw Hiro fire streams of bluish-white energy from his wings. Naruto quickly jumped back, releasing his hold on Kuro as the blast streams of bluish-white energy would apart the ground. Kuro, you're getting sloppy again. You can't just run in there blindly and attack him. Hiro once again scolded his counterpart. Kuro scowled under his helmet. Shut up, I don't need your help to defeat him. Kuro fired back in annoyance. Naruto sighed in frustration at these two. If the two of you are not going to take this seriously, then leave and go fight somewhere else. But if you intend on staying and fighting me, I'm not going to hold back against either one of you. Naruto said before opening both of his hands. Soon enough, the spheres of spiraling chaos formed in his hands. Kuro snickered arrogantly. Oh? You think you can defeat the both of us, Tilda? That's a laugh. There is no way you can stand up to both heavenly dragons at once. The Securite said very arrogantly while pointing his thumb at himself. But I'm the stronger of the two. So you have a higher chance of being Mr. White than me. Kuro declared loudly before rushing towards Naruto. You, foolish idiot, we have to come up with a plan to defeat him, instead of just running in mindlessly like a beast. Hiro yelled out in his counterpart, completely ignoring insults Kuro threw at him. Rasenringen, spiraling cereal spheres, Naruto declared as he slammed the both spiraling spheres into Kuro's armored body. Gah! Kuro cried in pain as he spat blood through his helmet as he was sent spiraling away. Naruto had a look of slight surprise as his dual Rasengan didn't shatter his armor, instead just cracked it. The armor of his is very durable, but then again that was a low-level Rasengan barrage. I guess I have to try something a little bit stronger this time. Naruto thought before he narrowly dodged a punch from Hiro. Hiro thrusted his hand forward before gently patting Naruto on the back, before he was viciously kicked away by Naruto. Hey, gotcha, Hiro declared loudly. Divide. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt half of his reserves taken from him, but Hiro fell to the ground screaming in pain. Yah! Hiro began thrashing back and forth, as Naruto's power was literally eating away at him. Naruto quickly made his way over to the falling divine dividing user before placing his hand on Hiro and taking his power from the Hakuryuko. It's very foolish of you to try to take my power, you're lucky I can take it back, otherwise you'd be dead right now. Naruto said as Hiro groaned in response. Thank you for saving my host. But I'm curious, why did you save him? You're obviously his enemy and yet you still said to him? Why? Albion asked as Naruto stared at the light wanes. Naruto finally sighed before replying to Albion. It didn't seem right to let him die such an agonizing fate of letting my power rip apart his body apart from the inside out. It's just not my style. I would prefer to defeat my opponent fair and square. That's why I saved him, plus, and if by some miracle he gained control over my power. Is no doubt my mind he would be your most powerful host? Naruto said before catching Kuro's fist. You just don't know when to quit, do you? You must be a glutton for punishment. Naruto said before pulling Kuro forward before ramming his knee into his stomach. Hiro threw a text towards Naruto's face, which Naruto stopped effortlessly with his free hand. And in a quick motion Naruto slammed both the Sakuryute and the Hakuryuko into one another before tossing them away. Naruto inhaled a deep breath before unleashing a powerful wave of silver-ish black wind. Futon. Tenku no Kami Suraisa, Wind Release. Sky God Slicer. Roar of the majestic white dragon, Malefic red dragon. Kuro unleashed a powerful wave of red flames, while Hiro unleashed a condensed being of bluish-white energy. Both breath attacks collided with Naruto's powerful wave of silver-ish black wind. Upon colliding with each other caused a large explosion that shook Kyoto. Yasaka and Ari watched as Naruto took on both Dragon Emperors at once. He really is strong, makes me wonder just how much she was holding back against Kuyo. Ari said with an amazed look on her face. Yasaka simply nodded, but she knew was far from over. Naruto might be holding his own right now that the two use their juggernaut drives. Naruto is going to be in trouble. Be safe, Naruto. Yasaka muttered softly. Naruto top of his arms in tightly around his body as black and white lightning began dancing around him. Chidori Nagashi, 1000 birds current. Naruto extended both of his arms quickly as he released Chidori in every direction, as black and white electrical discharge flows from his entire body. Ga, Rog. Both Kuro and Hiro were both fried by this attack as they were sent tumbling away from Naruto. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he saw both dragon wielders still twitching and groaning in pain. They just won't stay down. Naruto groaned in thought. Haha, he's a tough one, you agree, Albion? Perhaps if he was alive when we still roam this world he would be a perfect rival for us. Indeed, Diedrich. For a Kitsune season, immensely powerful, possibly the most powerful one I've ever seen. Kuro began to push himself up, as his left gauntlet began to glow brightly. Boost, 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 boost. Kuro quickly placed his hand on Hiro's shoulder. Transfer. Hiro glanced at his rival with a look of surprise underneath his mask. Don't get used to this, this is a one-time only thing. Kuro grumbled while Hiro chuckled in amusement. So, this is a one-time alliance between the two of us. I guess I can live with that. We can't continue our fight until we remove him, as he blocks our past. Hiro declared as Kuro simply nodded. Naruto gave a smirk. I'm glad that the two of you are finally working together, but it's a little late for that, don't you think? Naruto said before focusing his right eye on the spot right behind them. In an instant Naruto vanished from sight. Wah! Before either of the dragon wielders could react, they were hit from behind, sending them both stumbling forward. Naruto appeared in front of them before clotheslined the both of them. Naruto appeared directly underneath them before kicking them into the air. Naruto then appeared above them. Both of his fists were cloaked in blue-black flames and black-white lightning. Say good night, Naruto declared loudly. Shit, damn. Hiro and Kuro were both hit by Naruto's fists, and sent crashing into the ground below. Naruto slowly descended to the ground, while in the background Ari and Yasaka both looking at him with looks of jealousy. Muttering words such as, so unfair, and, he can fly and we can't, which Naruto smirked upon hearing before frowning as he stared down at the two dragon emperors groaning in pain. Hiro and Kuro were now glaring up at Naruto, who was floating in the air above them with his arms crossed underneath his chest. I will not tolerate the two of you any longer, this is your last chance to leave. Naruto said, not wanting to kill these two. He hated killing with a passion. Kuro glanced at Hiro, who nodded. Kuro took a deep breath and channeled his power throughout his scale mail. A blood-red aura started to build up around him, causing the earth to tremble slightly beneath him. A maleficent feeling began to fill his mind. He quickly pushed it back before it had the chance to take over. Glancing upwards Kuro as he noticed Hiro was doing the exact same thing. His body was cloaked in a pure bluish-white aura. Shall we begin then? Let's. I, who am about to awaken. It has begun. Yes, it has certainly begun. I, who am about to awaken. They'll be blasted away. Yes, they'll certainly be blasted away. Kuro and Hiro recited identical verses of their Juggernaut Drive chant. Immediately, the jewels set in their respective scale mails started flashing, and voices not belonging to them started chanting in malicious tones of excitement. The malicious auras around them begun to grow thicker and stronger as the past Sakuryute and Hakuryuko voiced their resentments. Once again, Kuro and Hiro both bond themselves, pushing back the maleficent intent, though it took a bit more effort than the first time. I'm the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. It's always been like this, no matter what. That's right, it's been like this every single time. I'm the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of supremacy from God. The dream ends, and the illusion begins. Kuro and Hiro, their second verse of their cursed chants. They were no longer identical, but the voices of the past wielders grew more malefic and sinister with each word they chanted. The darkness at the edge of their minds refused to recede no matter how hard they pushed. Kuro hunched forward ever so slightly, while Hiro tried channeling happy thoughts as his breath grew slow and heavy. I sneer at the infinite and despise the dream. What the world seeks, and what the world rejects. I envy the infinite and pursue the dream. Everything, yes, give us everything. I will become the red dragon of domination. It was always power. It was always love. I will become the white dragon of supremacy. No matter how much time passes, or how the world changes, all of you always choose destruction in the end, and I will drag you into the depths of a blood-red abyss. And I will bring you to the limits of a white paradise. Kuro and Hiro shouted the last verse in unison with their predecessors. Juggernaut Drive, Juggernaut Drive. The instant the last verse was finished, Diedrich and Albion announced identical commands. In the next instant, both Kuro and Hiro auras expanded, engulfing the entire area in blinding red and white lights. Everyone, including Naruto, felt a heavy, powerful, ominous pressure come crashing down on them. The scale males have transformed from humanoid shape and height, growing and sharpening in various places. The helmet of the scale males elongated upwards, forming horns, and fangs appeared near the mouthpiece of the helmet, which had become jagged in shape. Massive wings appeared, or in Hiro's case, simply grew bigger, on their backs. Their gauntlets and greaves turned into claws. Their metallic tail that had initially grown out of the portion of the armor that covered their upper back disappeared and grew out of the part covering their tailbone. It grew thicker and spikes appeared around it, giving it a much more dangerous appearance. Yasaka and Ari were both shaking with fear. The power that was coming off these two made Kuyo look like a harmless kid in comparison. Both dragon emperors were covered in a tremendously ominous but powerful aura. Kuro was cloaked in a blood-red aura, while Hiro was cloaked in a bluish-white aura. Naruto took an unconscious step backwards as beads of sweat traveled down his forehead. This isn't good. I knew the Juggernaut drive would increase their power, but I never expected it would be this much. If this is how powerful they are in a weakened state while being sealed, I hate to face both heavenly dragons in their prime. Naruto thought to himself, narrowing his Rinne Sharingan. Both biomechanical dragon extended their wings and took flight, flying at Naruto as fascinated possibly could. Naruto dive-bombed at the ground, avoiding them completely, before extending both his hands at the two dragon emperors. Many tiny spheres of dark red chakra and light blue chakra manifested around Naruto. Kuro noticed Naruto and dive-bombed at him. Hiro was following behind his counterpart closely. The tiny spheres of chakra began to gather, forming a large purple sphere of chaotic chakra. Naruto focused his gaze of the two Longinus sacred gear users. Take this, Bijudama, Naruto yelled as he launched the sphere of concentrated energy. The Bijudama exploded on contact, engulfing both heavenly dragons in a large dome-like explosion. Yasaka and Ari both stared at the Bijudama and building they've never heard of before. That certainly is new financing that complicated either? You gather energy together and compact it into a sphere, Ari said before looking at Yasaka. It's like your Mamachichi you, stepfather, celestial body magic, don't you think, Ya-chan? Ari commented as Yasaka simply nodded. Yes, it does, but it's different at the same time. Compressing one's own power, no matter what, is demonic power, holy power, divine power, or even Yuki could easily create a sphere of concentrated power. But that feels different, it's denser, more concentrated. I guess we did ask Naruto-kun how he makes it once this is all over. Yasaka replied to Ari. And to top it all off, it's extremely destructive. Ari also commented as Yasaka nodded once more. Naruto glared at the large cloud of smoke. It's not over yet, is still alive. Naruto thought to himself as Hiro flew out of the smoke, reaching out and grabbing Naruto. Naruto simply smirked at the Hakuryuko. Eminata Kotachi. Konagona, heaven. Shatter, Naruto announced as his body shattered like a pane of glass. What? Hiro roared in surprise, as Naruto's body shattered into light fragments. Hiro didn't have to wonder for long as Naruto punched him in the side of the face. The Hakuryuko fell over from the force of the hit. Kuro came screaming out of the sky, trying to claw at Naruto's body. Naruto channeled his Rikudo no Chikara. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone technique, Naruto declared loudly as he summoned forth 40 clones. Yasaka and Ari were both dumbfounded by this. That's not illusions created by Yujutsu. Those are real physical clones? Yasaka noted as Ari nodded dumbly. Naruto glanced at his clones. Keep them busy, I need to recover for a bit. Eminata Kotachi took a lot out of me, Naruto said as his clones nodded. You think something, a couple of illusions, will keep us from ripping your part? Kuro roared as he began attacking the clones. Wah, these are real physical clones. Kuro cried in surprise. It appears so, but no matter, they will fall soon enough. Hiro calmly replied as he began attacking clones as well. Naruto landed near Yasaka and Ari. Quickly sitting down in the lotus position, Naruto got into a meditative state, hoping to recover as much of his Rikudo no Chikara as possible. Naruto-kun? Naruto opened a single eye and glanced at Yasaka. Is something on your mind, Yasaka-chan? He asked as a bead of sweat traveled down his forehead. I wanted to know, after this is all over, could you teach me and Ari how to use that sphere you created? Yasaka asked as Naruto raised an eyebrow. You want me to teach you how to perform the Bijudama? Naruto said as they both nodded. Naruto glanced back up at the Sakuryute and Hakuryuko, and seeing that they were still fighting with his clones. It's fairly simple actually, usually make a perfect ratio of 8:2 of positive chakra and negative chakra. When she did that ratio down, you compress into a sphere and you simply launch it at your opponent. Naruto explained. I'll explain in greater details later, Naruto said. Kuro roared in anger as he released a 360 degrees wave of blood-red aura that incinerated 10 of Naruto's clones. Naruto gritted his teeth and cursed under his breath. You got to be fucking kidding me. They're mowing through my clones like they're nothing? Naruto groaned in thought as he tried to gather up as much power as he possibly could before Kuro or Hiro came for him, or worse, Yasaka or Ari. I'll handle the rest of his clones, you go finish him off. Hiro ordered as Kuro growled in response before dive-bombing towards Naruto, whose eyes snapped open as he jumped forward. Naruto thrusted his fist forward towards Kuro, was knocked back slightly before rushing right back at Naruto. Naruto dodged Kuro's attempt to grant him, but was quickly whipped in the face by Kuro's tail. Gah! Naruto grunted as he was sent flying back as Kuro quickly grabbed him. Don't worry, Fox boy, we'll take good care of your lady friends over there. BWHAHAHAHA. Kuro laughed sinisterly as he flew straight towards the ground with his hand containing Naruto aimed directly at the ground. Naruto's eyes widened as both of his eyes unconsciously pulsed with power, as he was slammed directly into the ground. An explosion of dust and debris erupted into the sky like a geyser. Naruto! The two vixens cried out in fear, as they both rushed forward to help when Hiro landed in front of them. I'm sorry Yuta, but you're not allowed to get involved in this fight. Hiro spoke in a demonic tone of voice. Ari growled at the Hakuryuko, while Yasaka bit her lip, drawing blood, cursing herself for being so weak. Kuro gave a fanged grin, thinking he had finally killed Naruto, but something didn't feel right. It felt like Naruto got much wider, and what he was holding wasn't softer and squishy but hard, it was extremely hard. As the smoke and debris cleared, Naruto was floating within a small sea of black aura, with a dark gray ethereal rib cage protecting him. What the hell is this? Kuro yelled out in surprise as Naruto's eyes snapped open. Kuro quickly threw Naruto back, only for it to skeleton-like arms to form out of either side of the rib cage and quickly grab the ground. The two arms gently sent Naruto back down the ground. Naruto seemed a bit confused. Susanoo? The Rinne Sharingan only grants me the visual prowess of the Sharingan and the power of the Rinnegan? It's not supposed to grant the abilities of the Mangekyo Sharingan? So how in the hell did it give me the Susanoo? Naruto thought in pure confusion. What the hell are you? Kitsunes don't have this many powers. Just who the hell are you? Kuro yelled out as the effects of the Juggernaut drive were beginning to drive him insane. Hiro was feeling the effects as well, and he wouldn't be able to maintain it for much longer. Naruto glared at the two dragon emperors before him. What I am is none of your consent, I'm done playing around with you. Naruto declared as his Susanoo went from a rib cage to a full skeleton, as muscle and skin covered it. Naruto quickly sprouted out legs, giving his Susanoo more mobility. It had the appearance of a humanoid figure with long spiky hair and glowing blue eyes. The Susanoo formed an ethereal blade each hand, and Naruto quickly charged at Kuro, coming down with a sideways arc. Kuro brought his arm to block it as Naruto's attack nearly cut his arm off and knocked the gem in his forearm out, causing it to roll across the battlefield. Yo bassstardddd. Ragh. Kuro roared as he lost himself to the curse of the Juggernaut drive. As the Sekiryute began to furiously attack Naruto's Susanoo, although the biomechanical dragon could not cause any damage to the ethereal avatar. So, you finally lost your mind. Well, there's no challenging in putting down an animal, is there? Naruto said as he cut off one of Kuro's wings, preventing him from flying away. You are not allowed to kill him, that is my job. Hiro yelled out as you dive-bombed Naruto, which Naruto's Susanoo quickly dodged and quickly and effectively cut off one of Hiro's wings as upon hitting the ground, although one energy feather remained as it landed near Kuro's gem. Hiro groaned as he dispelled his Juggernaut drive. He was covered in sweat and exhausted. Hiro appeared as a young man with brown hair and green eyes. Give up, you're too strong, he said before he fainted. Naruto stared at the unconscious Hakuryuko before turning his attention over to the gem and Lightwing feather. I can use those for something, I just don't know what right now. Naruto thought as he channeled his chakra to his right eye, quickly storing the gem and feather in a pocket dimension. Kuro rushed towards Naruto blindly, furiously trying to claw at his ethereal avatar. Quickly channeling some chakra to his Susanoo, faced Naruto punched Kuro in his berserk state in the face. The biomechanical dragon fell backwards, hitting the ground. Upon hitting the ground, it pushed himself up slightly as its chest cavity opened, revealing the gem. Boost, 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 boost. Longinus Smasher. Kuro released a powerful green beam from his chest cavity which hit Naruto. However, an ethereal shield manifested on Naruto's Susanoo's left arm. Yata no Kagami. Yata mirror, Naruto declared as the blast was completely nullified by the shield. Quickly sprinting forward, Naruto beheaded the biomechanical dragon with his ethereal blade. Upon being beheaded, the creature shattered into bits, leaving behind a crippled man who looked older than Hiro, possibly 20 to 30 years older in fact. Kuro had lost a good 20 to 30 years of his lifespan because of the Juggernaut drive. He was originally 3 years younger than Hiro. Naruto gave a tired sigh as he dispelled his Susanoo as he leaned forward, breathing heavily, before he felt a gentle hand touch his shoulder. He knew it was Yasaka as he gently put his hand over hers. "I'm alright, I'm just exhausted," Naruto said. "You idiot, you could have gotten yourself killed." Yasaka scowled at him, which Naruto chuckled in response as he received the bonk on the head. Ari was worried too, but she couldn't help but chuckle at Naruto and Yasaka's antics. "Well, let's be glad it's over. Anyways, what should we do with these two?" Yasaka gained a serious look on her face. "They all stand trial for what they've done, and they will have their sacred gears removed," Yasaka declared as Ari raised an eyebrow. "Why not execute them? Removing their sacred gears will be more than a punishment for them, plus they'll die in the process anyways," Yasaka said. She hated killing just like Naruto and Ari did. But with Kuro and Hiro cannot go unpunished. Naruto simply listened to Yasaka and Ari discuss the punishment of the two Longinus sacred gear wielders. "As much as I hate to say this, but I agree with Yasaka, Ari. I hate killing with a passion for these two did to the city, and war planning to do with you two has burned them this punishment," Naruto said calmly. Ari glared at Naruto's look of surprise. "Really, Naruto-chan? Extracting their sacred gears is cruel and it's a long and painful process." Naruto just shook his head before he stood up and walked over to Kuro and placed his hand on his chest as he began to glow bright white. "Naruto-kun, Chan, what are you doing?" Both vixens asked as Naruto ignored them for the time being, before his hand sunk right into Kuro's chest. Naruto seemed to scowl before he pulled back his hand, and within his hand was a red gauntlet. Yasaka and Ari's eyes widened at this as Naruto handed them the boosted gear before he made his way over to Hiro and repeated the process. Now with the light wings in hand, Naruto made his way back over to the two vixens were staring at him. "That is one of the abilities that I gained from my senjutsu. The ability to touch someone's soul and remove things that do not belong," Naruto explained. "I knew you had senjutsu, but I didn't think you would have an ability like that," Ari said, tilting her head to the side. Yasaka nodded before glancing at the two sacred gears. "So, what are you going to do with those two sacred gears?" she asked as Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders. "Most likely get them back to the Angel faction, since I really have no use for these." "Unless you want them?" Naruto asked as Yasaka shook her head. "As nice as it would be to have these, I've had more than enough time around these two heavenly dragons to last me a lifetime." Ari nodded in agreement with her best friend, surrogate sister. Naruto nodded. "Before you decide to speak once more. One more thing before I forget, Hiro should only receive prison time. Kuro should be executed on the spot." Yasaka's eyes widened at this request before narrowing. "Why is that?" she asked as Ari also narrowed her eyes. Without skipping a beat, Naruto answered. "When I touch people's souls, I see their memories. Hiro was only fighting Kuro to protect his family. Kuro was fighting simply for the fun of it. He had killed many people, ruined families, orphaned children, and many more heinous acts that cannot be forgiven," Naruto replied. Yasaka glanced at Ari as they both nodded. "Alright, Kuro will be executed tomorrow. Hiro will have to face the elders, they will decide his fate." Naruto nodded, as Yasaka ordered for the two former dragon emperors to be imprisoned for the time being. Ari immediately went back to Yogara to spend the night with him, while Yasaka offered Naruto a place within the Imperial Palace. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.